Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Tyvis Powell, Jason Lloyd. Plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Booyah, booyah!
Hey, hey, hey!
Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Hump day midweek as we get ready for the Browns and the Jacksonville Jags.
Appropriate name for the day based on our conversation.
So I was just going to say, normally we'll have conversations that are off air and we'll bring them to the show. Not this time.
Nope.
We're not going to do that.
Let's just say we're going to leave it at Jay has educated us on symbols.
And I'll tell you what, I wasn't really thinking about it.
Not really.
But I think when I go home today, I'm going to have a snack. I'm going to have some pineapple.
Eat some fruit. It's good for you.
Yeah, pineapple's great for you.
Pineapple is great.
You'll like this. It will flush your system.
By the way, we have breaking news on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
We do?
You may remember a few months ago, I told you I was getting a washlet.
What's that?
Like a bidet.
Oh, yeah, okay, a bidet.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I have
So
one.
Is that what they're called now?
Well, so technically a bidet is almost like a separate toilet.
It's a standalone, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The washlet is a part that you buy that you put on top of your toilet.
Yeah, you can get that from Amazon.
So I spent like $500 on this thing.
I
want top of the line.
You got the toilet or you got the little?
No, I got the
it adds to the toilet.
Okay.
So, but the one I bought a few months ago was the wrong size. Plus, we realized we had to get an outlet put in near our toilet because you plug it in.
Oh, wow.
Because it heats up the water that's it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wouldn't you rather be cleaned by warm water than cold?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess if I'm going to do it that way, yeah.
Exactly.
You're right.
So we ordered.
He's so bougie.
I am.
He is bougie.
I'm very bougie.
He's definitely
you look
bougie.
at me. The first thing you think is bougie.
Bougie the bull.
Yeah. So we got the new one, and on Monday, I had an electrician come to the house. He installed the new outlet.
Was there conversation with the electrician? Like, what the hell are you putting an outlet here for, or no?
No.
You just said throw an outlet in.
Yeah, give me an outlet there, whatever.
You know he had to be thinking, what the hell is this?
You know what? I would have told him. We just didn't come up.
Okay.
Nice guy. Tri-County Electric. Good
Is it a
shout out to them.
CGI where it will, or CFI, it automatically will blow if there's water on it?
Yes.
So it's got the push-in button.
Yeah,
I think that would be code.
Yes.
Otherwise, you could have a horrible accident.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
that's one way to go.
We got it installed, and yesterday I used it for the first time. Let me tell you, it's a game changer.
On a 1 to 10.
It's a 10.
No kidding?
It's a 10.
Had you ever used one before?
My in-laws have one. They have like a cheaper one.
Yeah.
And it was okay.
You just called your in-laws cheap on TV.
My in-laws are not cheap. They bought a cheap washlet, though.
That's fair.
But this one is amazing. First of all, you got different temperatures of the water. The sprayer is kind of inside, and then it comes out when you're ready to spray. Mm-hmm. And depending on, you push a button, whether you're a man or a woman, so it knows where to spray and the right spots.
Now, will your wife and son use this too, do you think?
My son used it yesterday. It looks very high tech. It's like, and
can you take a picture of it and bring it into the show? We'd like to see it.
Absolutely, and I didn't have. And what's nice is usually at night, if I have to pee in the middle of the night, I got to turn on the light because I can't see what the hell's going on.
Yes.
But now it has a light on it.
Oh, nice.
So I have like a night light.
We bought on Shark Tank. We saw this on Shark Tank. It's a little clip that you put over the bowl.
Yeah.
And it's activated by motion. And so whenever you walk into the room and it's dark, it will illuminate the bowl. The light hangs down in the bowl. We put them on all of our toilets in the house.
I actually got that too, actually.
They're
right, because turning the light on wakes you up.
Yes, I don't like doing that.
I know.
It's harder to go back to sleep.
Well, my problem is I don't wake up in the middle of the night to go to
Well,
bed.
because
you're young. You will.
Once you hit 50, you pee in the middle of the night.
You do. You'll just wake up indiscriminately, be like, why am I up at 3:30? Oh, I got to take a leak.
Y'all just can't
that happens to me already.
Y'all can't hold y'all bladder.
No,
it's an age thing.
It's an age thing.
Yeah.
What happens is, as your muscles weaken, and this also will happen in your eyes, and it will suck.
Yeah.
The number one worst thing to me about getting old was I always had 20/10 and perfect up close. When when you turn about 50, the muscles in your eyes weaken, and it allows you can't focus like you could, and everything up close looks blurry.
Yeah,
So
that's why I got
All
reading
old
lists.
people wear the readers, and they do that number right there.
Yeah, I got to wear readers when at home.
Sucks,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, it sucks.
That's pretty much.
Mike
what it
said
looks
he's
like.
already peeing at night, and he's only like 30. So
that's early.
Well, I mean, if you're,
Yeah,
if
I'm
you're,
not a good sleeper to begin with, but I very frequently.
That's
like,
pretty early.
They
It
say
didn't
if
hit me
you-
until 50.
If
Do you
you're
snore, Mike?
hydrated, you're supposed to pee in the middle of the night. So I'm.
Are you not a good hydrator?
No.
Yeah,
I-
I'm not really either.
I can
I
actually.
am. I drink a ton of water.
Do you really?
See, I can
That's
go the
part of
whole
the-
day and don't drink nothing and be.
That's bad for you.
I know.
Yeah.
I've been trying to fix it, but I just
There's
can't.
a lot of
help it.
benefits to staying
Did
I
hydrated.
Urban
like
not
one
have
of those
the-
big water.
I got like
tests?
3 of them.
Oh,
I
you
just.
just don't use them.
Yeah, the gallon challenge.
Bro.
Yeah. Mike, do you snore?
If I'm on my back, yes. If I'm on my side, my
Have you ever been
stomach,
checked
no.
for sleep apnea?
No, I have not.
Usually, people that are overweight get it more often. I have sleep apnea, and
Do
some
you
people
sleep with the mask?
I do. Well,
Oh, no
I
kidding.
sleep with this thing. Mine's just called nose pillows.
It's like the little
So
nostrils?
It just goes in my. And when you first get it, it's really annoying. It's hard
Yeah.
to get used to. But now it's great. Now I sleep well.
And
I used to sleep
made
terribly.
a difference. It helps.
Huge, yeah. I
Yeah,
used to
people
stop
that
breathing
have it
all the time.
You know, a lot of people that live alone don't even know they have it.
I didn't.
Yeah. A number of years ago, one of my college roommates is single, and we met at Bowling Green for a weekend, and there was a snafu with the room, and he said, "Hey, can I stay in the room with you and Tracy?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, that's kind of weird, but yeah." So they got a cot, they threw the cot out there.
Yeah.
All through the night, I'm listening to him.
Oh.
He snore. He was a snorer. He would stop breathing.
Yeah, that's what I had. Yeah.
Like constantly, like once every 5 minutes, you'd hear a long pause, and my wife and I are laying there going, "Mark's gonna die in our room."
Yeah.
And then he would.
And Jay
start
was like,
breathing
"Who
again.
cares? I can't sleep."
No, I felt terrible. I woke up when we got up the next morning.
Yeah.
I go, "Bro, you have sleep apnea."
Yeah.
And I don't even really know much about it, but I know enough about it to know that you got to get checked. He went to a sleep lab.
Yeah.
And he had it, and now he sleeps
That
with
is
the
so-
mask every night.
that
He said it may have
experience is-
saved his life.
That
He had it
experience
bad.
is terrible going to the sleep lab because you have to sleep with all these wires connected to
In a
you.
different environment.
In a hospital, and they try to make you go to sleep at like 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that ain't right.
It was
No.
I could barely fall asleep. Took me forever.
All
But
right.
anyway.
If you'd like to know more about the Ultimate Cleveland Sports
Yeah.
Show and our ailments and our new
Yeah.
gadgets at home,
Get
watch
the
Overtime
washlet
today. Watch Overtime.
I can't recommend the washlet enough. It is a
That's
game.
awesome.
Think about
Take a video of it and bring it in.
Yeah.
And also the Pizza Hut uniform picture.
Oh yeah, I got to get that. By the way,
nice.
one last thing. You think about, well, it cost me whatever, $500. Sounds like
save
a lot
on
of money. It
toilet
is.
paper.
For a flush, it's pennies.
Think about how much money I'm going to save on toilet paper and the dude wipes.
Wait, you got to dry off. You can't just.
You can use a rag.
It's got a fan.
What?
It's got a fan.
It's like a car wash.
That's kind of weird.
It's got a fan.
So you-
and
Now-
you can change the temperature on the fan.
So it will blow hot.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Pause.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel.
All right, next, we're going to move on,
You gotta
guys.
draw the
All
line.
right, let's leave it there. I'm just telling
You
everybody
gotta
to
draw
get
the
it.
line somewhere.
It's amazing.
Pennies per flush. You know how Howard Stern is the spokesperson for Squatty Potty?
Yes.
We need to find out the company, okay?
Yeah.
And we need to reach out to them and see if we can have Bull
Yes.
be the spokesperson for Washlet, and they could be a new
It's amazing.
sponsor on the
It's
Ultimate
amazing.
Cleveland
By the
Sports
way,
Show.
if you are a Stern fan, one of his guys died.
Who?
Ralph. You know this guy?
Oh,
Ralph?
yes.
It was like his stylist.
Of what?
I don't know. He's in his 50s. I don't know what he died. I didn't hear that detail, but
He didn't,
Wow.
Stern didn't give any details when he talked about it.
Oh,
on
that's
Thursday,
horrible.
so-
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
But
horrible.
RIP, hopefully his family's doing. All right, we got a busy show today, guys, and we're going to start with a FanDuel read and get into our first topic of the day. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel or getting in on any sports gambling action, the red-hot deals on FanDuel are still there despite the weather getting colder. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is simple to use, and they have a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. That is FanDuel.com/UCSS. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And today's winning ticket comes from Brian Abrams, who had a 4-part same-game parlay from Monday's NBA play-in tournament action, mid-season tournament action. He had De'Aaron Fox over on the points, McCollum over on the assists, Murray over on the threes, and Trey Murphy over on the threes.
Nice.
He turned $6 into $95, 13-1 odds.
Nice.
So shout out to Brian for that ticket. If you have a winning FanDuel ticket, make sure y'all tweet it at us at Mike Lucas TV or at AltClee Sports.
By the way, the Browns on Monday were 3-point dog. Yesterday they were a 1-point favorite. Now they're a 3-point favorite. Yeah. As things are trending, that Trevor Lawrence is not.
That's where we start
very likely
today.
Not going to play.
Trevor. Yesterday, I thought I love the gamesmanship. I mean, the Browns are engaged in it right now.
Sure.
The Browns said, we're not going to make an announcement on who's going to be our starting quarterback. They don't need to. You're actually at a competitive disadvantage if you make that declaration now. There's no need to. That's why I wasn't at all surprised yesterday when the head coach of the Jags, former quarterback for the Browns, Doug Peterson, kind of led the media to believe, like, hey, this thing could happen. He could play. That's nonsense.
No.
It's been diagnosed as a high ankle sprain. If he does, he rewrites the recovery period for a high ankle sprain.
Didn't Mahomes play on a high ankle sprain last year in the
Mahomes
playoffs?
In the playoffs, but didn't he have a week between the last regular season game?
It was in the. He hurt it against
He
the
got
Jags
hurt versus
in the playoffs.
Jacksonville. Versus Jacksonville,
Yeah,
and then played.
Hey,
And he played.
Look, he's superhuman.
But that's a playoff game.
Yeah, and I think if this was a playoff game, maybe you would tape it, shoot it, and go. I'm going to be shocked
The
if he
Jags
plays.
are almost definitely going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
If I'm them,
As a division winner.
right, I'm not rushing back Trevor Lawrence.
No way.
I
You
want
risk
him
losing
healthy
him for the year.
Right, I want him healthy for
So
the
my
playoffs.
guess is he's not going to play. And so McNugget's question to start us off here is, if Lawrence is out, obviously that means C.J. Beathard's going to go. And the Browns, I would think conventional wisdom is pointing towards Joe Flacco. If that happens, do the Browns have the definitive quarterback edge in your guys' mind? Flacco over Beathard?
Yes.
Tyvis, you played with Beathard, right?
Listen, CJ was, I love playing with CJ. CJ was really a high energy guy, was a dog on the field. Obviously, he didn't have the success when it comes to wins and losses, but I think he did a really good job of picking up Kyle Shanahan's offense. I mean, you got to give him credit because Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in this game today.
Right.
To be able to operate that and make plays, I thought he was able to do that. And I also thought he brought this toughness to him. You know, he was one of those guys that'll scramble, drop the shoulder.
Guy?
Yeah, he's from Iowa. Yeah, so you know how they are.
Yeah.
But
you're right. That's why I bring it up.
yeah, but I would definitely take Joe Flacco over him just from the simple fact that, you know, we got to watch Joe play last week at 38. What is he, 38?
Yep.
And he looked good. I mean, he's still poised. He brings leadership to the whole deal. It's a sense of calmness. It's like he understands what Kevin Stefanski wants and where to go with the football. And outside of the one pick that he threw, that was like the worst play he had. He does a good job of taking care of the football because he didn't have any fumbles. Right. So I kind of like him over CJ in this. Now, don't get me wrong. I like Calvin Ridley over, say, Amari Cooper's out over Elijah Moore.
Sure.
So I think he's got.
They've lost their other good wide
Kirk is
receiver.
Christian Kirk. Yeah, Christian
for the
Kirk.
season.
But I think that from the weapons standpoint, for some odd reason, I just like Jacksonville's a little bit better.
Before Bull goes, McNuggets has something.
Yeah, I just remember a conversation I was having with Bull back in, I believe it was July, and you could take tagboard full here, Steve, but I said, Bull, what are the 3 best words in sports? And he said, quote, the 3 best words in sports? Easy. Flacco versus Beathard. Now, this was from the middle of July.
Thinking man Bull photo.
I love that.
This was from July, so Bull, who's never wrong, actually predicted this was going to happen back in July. So, Bull, now you have a chance to
I am wrong
answer this
plenty,
question.
but in this case, I was right. I knew this game was
is
coming.
a highly anticipated matchup.
I would give the edge to Flacco, but I don't think it's a huge edge. At this point, certainly if we had Joe Flacco from 8-10 years ago, then it would be a big edge.
Right.
At this point, I think it's a slight edge, but the difference is if Trevor Lawrence was playing, it would be a big edge for Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Instead, you got a slight edge for the Browns. I thought C.J. Beathard, when he came in last week, did a decent job.
Yeah, he did.
Managed very
he
well.
played pretty well.
Yeah.
And you talked about it. You know him. I mean, you say he's a tough guy. He's a leader.
Yes, he is.
It didn't feel like the moment was big. He came into the game in a big spot. So I think he's fine, but Joe obviously – and now the big advantage that Beathard has over Flacco is he's been in Jacksonville for 2 years.
That's it.
So he knows that system.
Right.
Whereas Joe's still new to the system and new to the receivers. But in the end, I'll go with Joe having more experience and played a full game last week to give him a slight edge, but not massive.
I'm with you. I think it makes it a clean sweep. Flacco is the guy that I want starting. So look at it this way. This is the way I approached it. If you had a chance to start, if you're the Browns, you can go get Beathard if you want him for this game. Do you want him or do you want Joe Flacco? And forget the knowledge of the system. Just
right.
Like, it's clearly Flacco has had a longer career. He's more experienced.
Yeah.
He's won the Super Bowl. I do want Joe Flacco on the team, and I think the Browns have a very slight edge at quarterback for Sunday's matchup. But I'm with you, Bull. When I watched CJ, I thought after the limited time we saw him in the game, I thought when it went to overtime and they got the coin toss, I thought, oh, they're going to probably win the game.
I mean, his last drive, he drove them down the field for them to kick the field.
Yes, he did. And looked very good. I think it was 4 or 5 or 5
I think it was 4 or 5.
Yeah, he made a number of good throws in his 2 drives that he played. So it's not like this is a Nathan Peterman situation.
No, not at all. But here's the one thing that I hope the Browns have learned through this season, not just their situation, but the situation of the other 31 teams. We've talked at length this year, particularly because it affects the Browns so dramatically, about the impact of the backup quarterback and the role of the backup quarterback and how much of your salary cap resource should go towards your backup quarterback. The Browns have very clearly made an organizational decision that position for them is not important. In large part because, and this was true last year, if you don't have Deshaun Watson, you're not winning a Super Bowl. And I think that's the way they went into this season, saying, look, we think that DTR is ready based on what we saw in the preseason. There's a negligible difference between DTR and Josh Dobbs. Yeah. So they made the decision to cut bait on Dobbs and trade him. Well, I think the luxury of having a guy like that in the system that knows the system and has been there. I mean, he split time between Cleveland and Tennessee last year, but he was in Cleveland's system. He's a smart guy. He knows how to pick things up quickly. I just think that I want a veteran backup quarterback. And we've seen that and he's not a veteran per se. It's hard to call a veteran a backup these days because you're not going to have a guy that's been in the league 12, 13 years. But I think the ideal situation is having Browning in Cincinnati, who's been in the system multiple years.
Right.
And it's not going to be a crash course pop quiz like it has been for the Browns twice this year.
But what I could argue,
3 times this year.
What I could argue is maybe next year DTR is the perfect backup.
And
for the
Bull,
Browns.
you might absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
I hope that they go a sustained period of time, 3 years. That's the length of his contract.
Yeah.
Keep DTR in the system. Let him understand.
Right.
Where if Deshaun Watson goes out next year, you've got a guy that you can bring in that you're no longer trying to cram all this information into his head, which can be very overwhelming, particularly for a rookie.
Yeah, you have to have a backup that you can trust. He doesn't have to be necessarily an older player, but it's got to be somebody that is not a disaster if you put him in there.
I agree.
And some team, like we saw what happened when Arizona went to Clayton Tune. And in fairness to him, it was only 1 game, but it was a disaster.
It was a disaster.
He was awful. And so,
I just feel like the Browns, this is 2 years in a row that the Browns have fallen victim to a decision that they made. So last year this is a passing league. We don't need defensive tackles because they're going to pass the ball. And boom, we fall victim to that. This year, we don't need a backup quarterback. We got a rookie that we believe in. We don't really, who cares about a backup quarterback? And boom, it's not just the Browns. Everybody, it's a lot of teams that's affected.
You know, it reminds me of Bull, in baseball, there's a saying that the ball always finds the new guy.
Yeah.
Like when you make a defensive change and you put someone in at third base, inevitably the very first ball that inning is a shot to third base.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like that. When you have a weakness, it almost inevitably is always exposed.
I wonder, we talked about this before. Pretty much every team that spends big money on a starting quarterback does not have a high-paid backup.
No.
I mean, across the board, the only high-paid backups are on teams with low-paid starters.
And I'm not suggesting that you go the high-paid route because the high-paid route is the Jacoby Brissett.
Right.
So I think that is an extreme luxury that you don't have to go that far. Just go with the guy that's your guy for 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And when
Stick
his
with a
contract
guy.
is up, when Browning's contract is up, and I don't know how they're going to handle this. They've got a lot of decisions to make.
Yeah.
The Bengals do.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who you might want to float a little bit more money to because he's in that perfect category. Is he good enough to be an NFL starter? I don't know. He certainly
We'll see how he plays
well.
the rest of the
year. We'll see how he
Yeah.
plays. But so he's not going to get a huge offer to go somewhere else.
No.
In the grand scheme of things, what is Baker working for this year? Did he go for $4 million?
Something in that neck of the
It
woods.
was a small number.
$4 million.
Okay, so a guy, now obviously with all of the drama that he had, you can't bring Baker in and ask him to back up Deshaun Watson. But think about where, I know you giggle.
Ooh-wee, wouldn't that be something?
There was nothing that said they had to move on from him.
Well, he wanted to move on.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
But I'm saying there was nothing that mandated the Browns do it.
No.
But what's incredible to me, for all the poking that we've done at Baker Mayfield, how good would this team feel right now if in week 4, whenever Deshaun goes out, Baker Mayfield comes in and he's your backup quarterback?
That's irrelevant at this point.
It is.
Because he would have never been the backup this year.
He was a $4 million proposition. So I don't think you have to go all in on the $8 million to Jacoby Brissett and go that route, even though that is a luxury to have if you can do it. Maybe a team like Kansas City, it might make sense, that's already a championship caliber team, and you know you don't want your season to be decided on a late injury to your quarterback. But you can find these guys that you get in your system and keep them there for 3 or 4 years, even if you have to, quote, overpay.
That's ideal, although a lot of times if you do that, the first year of that guy, you don't know. You don't know what you're getting.
You know what comes to mind when COVID hit? All of the cancellations that were going on worldwide were costing athletic organizations millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Wimbledon. I can't remember now. One of the tennis tournaments, by just smart planning and covering every possible base, had actually taken out pandemic insurance. Now
Really?
It was a very expensive premium. I remember reading the article at the time, reading about it, saying, "Wow, how do you get that through your board of directors?" If I'm on that board, I'm like, "Guys, we haven't had a worldwide pandemic in 100 years. I think we're good."
Yeah.
They got paid $141 million,
which is stunning.
Sheesh.
It's stunning, and they couldn't stage their event, so they were able to turn in their receipts from the year before, their gross or their net rather, and the insurance company had to write a check. Now, I imagine paying those premiums for Wimbledon were pretty damn painful. Every month you're writing out that premium check for pandemic insurance. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing for flood insurance in non-flood zones down in Florida. I have friends that took it at a pretty high rate, and they would say, "I know I'm not in the floodplain, but hurricanes happen pretty regularly." Mm-hmm. And they took it. And when Ian came and wiped out everything 5 miles inland from the Gulf Coast, they got paid where most people did not because they didn't take the flood insurance riders.
I wonder if league-wide we will see more teams spend on a backup quarterback because of this year.
Yeah.
I asked that question earlier, I think yes.
I guess that's going to be an interesting thing.
The league.
What's the number, Bull? 54 starting quarterbacks?
So I don't even know exactly
If
what it is
C.J.
anymore.
Beathard starts,
I think it's 53.
Oh, I thought Beathard would be the 54th, but you may be right.
Maybe
I know we
53
were
or 54, whatever it is.
a couple of weeks ago, and I
Jake
don't
Browning started, and then
I mean, it's
so he's probably 52.
It's the
probably
most
53.
ever already.
Well, I mean, and if you do the math, there's 32 teams, and if you're at 53, that means 21 of the 32 teams have started at least one game with their backup quarterback. So to answer your question, are more organizations in sports going to start taking pandemic insurance riders? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
because they saw how much money they lost.
Right.
That was the whole point of the emergency backup quarterback thing. They give you 3 now, and 1 don't even count towards the roster because they knew that the NFL must be smart and like, listen, we're going to give y'all a chance to get you a quarterback to bring.
Well,
in.
they did that because of the Purdy situation.
They did that
Exactly.
because the
But I'm saying nobody. It seemed like nobody really utilized it this year.
There are teams that are doing that.
the Browns have used it, haven't they?
Yes. If the guy is on the
practice squad.
Does he have to be on the active roster or the practice
I don't know
squad?
that
I think he has to be on the active
Oh,
roster.
okay.
He has to be on the active roster, but not on the game day roster.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When we had asked this question earlier, I remember proposing at the time, I think you said, no, that would never work. I'll just float it out there again. What if the NFL teams had a 1 salary exemption that had to be a backup quarterback?
From the cap?
From the cap. So, and here's why I bring that up. It's good for the league, and it's equal for all 32 teams. Nobody has an advantage. The reason I bring that up is you joke about Sunday's quarterback matchup. Well, if you think Sunday's quarterback matchup is bad, don't watch football tomorrow night.
Oh, that's good.
Tomorrow night might be one of the all-time worst that we've ever seen.
The over-under in the game has gone up
Zappy,
to 30.
Okay, Mike just said the over-under on the game just has moved up a little bit to 30. So it's Zappy and Trubisky. So the reason I bring this up is that's bad for the league.
Yeah.
It's bad for fans because the product is bad. It's bad for the league because it's an exclusive window, and the league makes its money, believe it or not so much on the regional Sundays in their exclusive windows. That's why you see New York, Dallas, Philly, all of those big market teams playing over and over and over again on Sunday Night Football. People complain,
especially
but
when the teams are bad. But
you're right. But the league, what they're doing, the league is hedging their bets.
Yeah.
They know when they put Dallas on a Sunday night, and this is proven even when Dallas is 6-6.
Yeah.
When they put Dallas in the Sunday night window, or the Giants in a Sunday night window, the number is just bigger than if they put Arizona and Green Bay. Why? Two small markets without a lot of national interest except for Green Bay.
Yeah.
But when you put a Dallas or a New York in the national window, and I've never done this, but I always said I'm going to do it. I want to 1 year go through the exclusive windows and count up the appearances of the Dallases, the San Franciscos. The biggest markets in the United States are New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles. Los Angeles does not enter this equation.
No.
They do not equate to TV ratings.
Atlanta's a top 10 market now, isn't it?
Just barely.
Boston,
but you'll basically see your big New Yorks, Giants, Jets, Cowboys, Philly, San Francisco. Also, most of the NFC teams are in the bigger markets. If you look at where the teams are, obviously New York has two. Chicago is exclusive to the NFC. San Francisco now, with Oakland being out of that market, is exclusive to the NFC. Washington, NFC. Dallas, NFC.
What's funny is Houston is one of the biggest markets, but the Texans, I don't think, move the needle.
I don't know. I don't think they do. Not like
but
the Cowboys.
But it's a huge market, Houston.
Yeah, it's a top 10 market now. But the reason I bring that up is it's bad for the league to put a game in an exclusive window with horrible quarterback play. Nobody wants to watch that.
That's a fact.
So what I'm proposing is all teams get an exemption with a cap of $10 million at that position, and that number can float as the cap moves up. But you have $10 million to spend that is cap exempt on a backup quarterback. And in my view, what that would do is it would make sure we don't have Thursday night and what we're going to see Sunday night. Because those quarterbacks that are kind of on the fringe of are they good enough to keep a roster spot? Well, no, because they've got 6 years experience. We've got to pay them more. Or a 10-year veteran that's now going to get the maximum for a league vet. Teams aren't going to waste that resource, but if it didn't count against the cap, I think they might.
I just don't. I mean, I feel like I don't know that would make much of a difference because, like, who doesn't have a job because of the salary cap right now?
Well, it's not who doesn't have a job, Bull.
Yeah.
It's that pool is turning over every 3 years. The pool of backup quarterbacks is turning over because teams don't want to spend resources to keep guys around. Colt McCoy, for example, was an outlier. Colt McCoy kept getting jobs.
Right.
Typically, that doesn't happen.
But there are some guys that have been like that for a while.
Remember the term career backup?
Yeah.
That every team had a career backup.
There used to be a guy like that on every team. There isn't.
And I think if they change that,
maybe
they give an exemption for that backup quarterback position, I think now you create a lane for a backup quarterback.
I mean, there are some of those guys. Jacoby Brissett's that guy.
There's a few. Right now
Chase Daniel was that guy. Andy Dalton's become that guy.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Henney.
But for the five that we can name, there's a bunch of guys we can name that we don't even know about.
Right.
And I don't think the league should put its product in the hands of guys we don't know about.
I mean, there are guys even on a lower tier, like a Brandon Whedon type of guy, that you could have paid a little more, not at
keep
this
them around.
point, but that you might have had as like guys like that.
Yeah, and
the
I think
best
the guys,
backups are still going to keep their jobs, but it's the mid-tier backup that you're like,
let
I'll
him
pay
go.
$3 million less to go with this rookie.
And the teams that are looking for a backup will find one in the draft or in free agency, like undrafted free agents.
Right.
Brock Purdy was one pick away from being an undrafted free agent. You know, I mean, so but it is tough. I think it's a problem, Bill. That to your point, It's going to change the way teams compose their roster.
Yeah, it's bad that all these quarterbacks are hurt. That's the bottom line.
For the league.
It's bad for the league.
And for the fans, and I think the league can do something about it by giving them that slot exemption.
You saying Brock Purdy, the #1 power ranked quarterback?
That's exactly
your
the guy I'm
guy.
talking about.
Your guy.
My guy. Boy, did I take heat for that.
I can't believe. Whoa, what do you mean?
When
said
I
he
said
was better than Josh Allen.
I said he was a top 5 quarterback going into the Browns game, and Bull said, who are you going to take out? And I said, Josh Allen.
There's still nobody in the league that would take Purdy over Allen. But Purdy's been great.
To your point, you might be right, but if you look at the numbers, and not just CBS Sports' quarterback power rankings, because that's kind of arbitrary.
His numbers are really good.
His numbers.
He has the advantage of having the best talent around him, without a doubt.
And I think the best coach.
And a great coach.
But that's all. That's how we can rate him. That's all we have.
Brock Purdy deserves his respect. I still wouldn't take him over Josh Allen, but he's certainly in the top 10 quarterback
conversation. But what I said about Allen, why I would take him out, is because I don't like the way he takes care of the football. That's been a problem this year. I think he
more than makes up for it with what he does.
That's the question. It's the give and take. It's like the home run guy. Is it worth having Anthony Rizzo in your lineup, hitting 199, but giving you 40 home runs?
Yeah.
That's
For
it.
what it's worth, and I don't want to start anything, but Josh Allen leads the league in EPA per dropback. Tyvis, real quick before
I don't like EPA.
Before we bring in
you down with
Leroy
EPA?
Here.
That doesn't work.
Is Joe Flacco the highest quality backup the Browns could have at this point? We just talked all about backups. I know he wasn't on the roster to begin the season, but at this point, is Joe Flacco about as good of an option as you could have around the league for a guy you're asking to come in Week 14 as a spot starter?
Around the league.
I'm going to rather have Brissett.
But he wasn't available Week 14. I'm saying, bring in. Is this about as good a situation the Browns could be?
We first brought up Joe Flacco's name. Go back and look at it in Week 4. We did.
Did we?
We brought up his name when Deshaun Watson was first hurt. On the show the next day,
at this point, who else?
I'm about to say who else?
What are the other options, Mike?
Cam Newton.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think it was him, Cam. Like Tom
I think
Brady
we got the best guy.
I think the Browns.
Well, I mean, Tom Brady still is the answer.
Tom Brady's not playing.
I asked the question with the.
I wish he was.
The intended answer of I think the Browns, of all the options out there, I think they picked the best one.
I think you're right, but I also think they did it 10 weeks too late.
Yeah.
And two things can be right at the same time.
In fairness, it's there's really nothing out there.
Yeah.
I mean, give me any examples?
Well, but you could have gotten,
Nick Foles?
for example, you could have brought Nick Foles, who could have been a disaster. They picked a guy out of a heap of scrap, essentially.
Again,
came in and threw 1 week. It's just
Flacco's
1 week.
played one game. We got to see, can he sustain this?
Right.
Is a fair question. We'll see. But that one game was very good.
We're going to bring in Leroy here.
I think all of us were in agreement when they signed Flacco. We all said that's the right move.
And so far, through 1 week,
because we were advocating for it long before they signed him. Get him in here so he knows the system. They could have done it as soon as they knew Deshaun Watson had the shoulder injury. Mm-hmm. We were all advocating, you got to get a guy in
somebody.
Here. And Flacco was the guy that one of many that we talked about, but we were all in agreement that we would be good with that.
You wouldn't take Robert Dobbs back?
We're not going down that route right now. We got Leroy to bring in, and Leroy today is brought to us by Jace Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case, which provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, giving you peace of mind so you're not just hoping you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand, and it's simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care so you don't get caught unprepared. You get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout at jacemedical.com. What's up, Leroy?
What's up?
Leroy, there's a town in upstate New York called Leroy. It's spelled the same as Leroy, but it's pronounced Leroy. Have you ever heard of this town?
No.
All right, well, you don't get mad about it. I'm just asking you a question. So my question is, has anybody ever called you Leroy before?
Yeah, right before I wanted to give him a 2-piece and a soda. That ain't my name.
2-piece and a soda.
Leroy,
hey, I literally, you know what? Here's what I learned as a kid.
Yeah.
My father told me this. The first sign of respect you can show somebody is getting their name right. If you don't know, you ask.
That's right.
Yeah, now that's good advice.
I agree. When I was doing
the very first sign of respect that you could show somebody is with a handshake and getting their name right. If you can't do that, I can't respect you. I can't.
What if you're a germaphobe and you'd rather fist bump than shake hands? What do you think about that?
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Leroy,
I've asked people. I've asked people
Yeah.
that, I didn't want to get their name wrong and I didn't want to disrespect them. And I asked them, how do you pronounce your name? There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's perfect.
And I tell them, I said, I want you to know that I respect you. So I'm going to make damn sure that I get your name right.
Now, for the record, Leroy, when you and I met, I thought it was a little odd that you asked me how to pronounce Jay. I personally, I thought you should know.
Hey, wait. Clearly, I had a problem with it when I was sending pictures all over the bar.
To Jane.
That's right.
Oh, that was well played, Leroy. And he was insisting, bro, I'm sending the picture to you. It's right here. And I looked at it and said, bro, that says Jane's iPhone.
And then you look at the other table, and I say, I guess we know who Jane is. She over there smiling.
Look at I got pictures of Bernie Kosar and Leroy Hoard coming to me.
Leroy, what scares you about Jacksonville, saying that if Trevor Lawrence is out, what will be your biggest fear for the Browns?
Good question.
Thank you.
Etienne. They do a pretty good job of trying to establish the run. And if you establish the run, here's the deal. You can get away with play action with an average quarterback because it creates space. But if you stop the run, then that space shrinks. So the game starts off with stopping the run. If Trevor Lawrence plays, he's going to be limited. And one of the things that people don't realize is dude can move.
Yeah.
For a guy as tall as he is, he got some good wheels on him. So the fact that you may not have to deal with that and you got a guy sitting in the pocket because he can't move, that's the other thing. But I really do believe that they're going to make a conscious effort to establish the run. They do have weapons outside. If you watch that game, man, they were all over the place in that secondary. And that is what seemed to have plagued the Browns all years, the 1 or 2 big plays they give up in the secondary.
Leroy, I'm curious. On the defense, like the Browns have had a million injuries on offense. For the most part, they've been relatively healthy on defense until recently. In these last couple of games, Myles Garrett's been banged up. He's playing, but he's not obviously 100%. And Denzel Ward has been out of the lineup. And their defense
that's a bigger issue with Denzel being out.
Okay, so I want to get to that. So the last 2 weeks, their defense, which was lights out for most of the season, has been at best mediocre the last 2 weeks. Is just Ward and Myles being banged up, even though they're the 2 best players, is that an excuse? Should they have dropped this far with those injuries?
It works hand in hand.
Okay.
How do you know that Jim Schwartz can't call the defenses he want to call because he ain't got Denzel either be able to lock somebody down or shut down one side of the field? Now you got to play more of a zone because you don't want to expose anybody out there man-to-man. So let's start there. The other thing is you can get away with that zone if you get some pressure. So if they're doubling and chipping Myles Garrett, somebody else got to make a damn play. That's the way football has always worked. If I'm getting 2, that means you one-on-one, you got to make a play. And so the fact that nobody else was able to really make a play and put pressure on Stafford and just let him sit back and pick you apart, that was an issue. So it goes hand in hand. It's not necessarily that the injuries are hurting you. It's who's injured. And with Myles Garrett, he is one of those dudes. He'll make his plays, but here's how it goes. Every team starts off the game chipping, double teaming, chipping, 3 linemen bumping him, Myles Garrett. Then somebody else makes a sack. Then somebody else gets a sack. And now you can't double team Myles Garrett anymore because that pressure getting you from the other side, and then Myles Garrett start causing havoc. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen last game.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so, like, the things that have been happening to make you successful during the course of the season defensively didn't take place for whatever reason. And I can't tell you exactly what the reasons were, whether it was the defensive calls because they, played a little more safe because they didn't want to give up, expose anybody, or the fact that the pressure wasn't getting there as quick as it normally has and force a quarterback into making some bad throws.
Leroy, I'm glad you went there because one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, even before you made that comment, was it seems like the coverage sacks are more likely to happen when you have a quarterback that isn't a seasoned veteran. In other words, a guy that can zip through those progressions and ultimately find someone that's open. And what I've noticed without Denzel on the field, we're not getting coverage sacks because there's always someone open early in the route, and the good seasoned quarterback is going to find him and get him the football. That's why having Denzel off the field, I know Myles is more valuable, but man, Denzel's absence is just killing this team.
And Tyvus can tell you this. A lot of people don't really understand how close and how hand-to-hand those two things work, right? A coverage sack is only possible if you're getting pressure.
Right.
It's only possible. If you're not getting pressure, I don't care how great your defense is, that's a lot of field to be covering for 5 seconds.
Sure.
And somebody eventually will get open. That's a fact. I don't care who you have playing in the secondary. So it all starts up front for me, is that if you want, and this is what I thought they would do, that, hell, we ain't dropping back in the zone. We just going to blitz.
Right.
And take our chances that way. Because there's nothing worse for me watching either my defense or another team's defense play a zone and get picked apart and don't make any adjustments because you're still getting beat. So who cares if, you got, who's Pikachu? What's his name?
Pikachu.
Nakua.
Puka Nakua.
That's a good nickname
Right,
for him.
that's
Pikachu.
So-
Anthony appreciates
so-
that one.
When he went across the middle of the field, that was a zone. And he ran through the zone scot-free. So when we talk about, that to be able to have that time to throw that ball, right? That's what the Browns defense has eliminated for a lot of quarterbacks. Now, keep in mind he's a veteran, so he will get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. So that's going to hurt you too. But without pressure up front, without any kind of sustained pressure, that's going to happen every week to teams that you didn't even believe had an offense. They can pick you apart, any team.
Right.
And they was in cover too. It was the middle run through linebacker was the play. Stafford threw it down. He dropped it right in the bucket on that.
But wait. Can I ask you a question? Tyvus.
Wait a minute. It was an inverted cover too, so the corner was the half player. Go ahead.
But I'm gonna say this. Why do y'all insist on defenses in general? It happens on a lot of teams. When I see a receiver being chased by a linebacker, y'all can't come up with a better defense than that?
So let me talk to you. Wait a minute, Leroy, let me explain something.
Why does that happen?
Let me explain something.
Okay.
Let's say that there's 70 defensive plays in the game, okay? Let's say 60 of them is man to man, all right? So you got 60 snaps a game. This is week 12. That's a lot of plays of playing man to man. That's a lot on the DB's body, okay?
Are they wearing down?
Yeah, you're wearing down a lot. Every now and again, you want what's called a smoke break. A smoke break for a DB is cover 2 because it's easy for the corner.
He could just sit and read the quarterback.
Exactly. So they caught them on a smoke break. And a lot of the times these smoke breaks come when it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, 3rd and long. Like that's when you run those smoke breaks. You run man when it's like 3rd and 3 and less. So in this particular situation, You had to run. You had to give him a smoke break, and they caught him on the smoke break. That's what it
I've
was.
heard that before.
Never heard that term.
That's what we call it. Like, come on, man, give me a smoke break.
I've heard it. Yeah,
give me a smoke break.
Wait,
That's funny.
Let's just say this. You know, you can smoke whatever you want on the sideline once you get off the field.
You don't need a smoke break during the drive.
Leroy,
Your smoke break is when the offense has the
my
ball.
question.
You know how we get a smoke break?
How?
When somebody get a little hit and they try to suck it up and jump up, we go, stay down, stay down. Hey, wait, Tyvis, how many times for 2 minutes did you say, stay down, stay down?
No, for sure. No, them do 2 minutes, especially the no hurry up.
Just see a lot of guys with cramps.
Get a cramp. Yeah, get a cramp. Stay down.
My favorite is when they stand up and they're fine, and the sideline is yelling, stay down, and then it looks like they got sniped by an invisible bullet.
Yeah.
They just fall in a heap.
Hey, you would not believe, like people think, look, you could be in tip-top shape. There's moments in the game where I'm telling you, oxygen just ain't getting to your body.
That's true. That's really true.
And your coaches think you could go full all out and just keep going. And so we in the huddle, we're like, hey, somebody got to go down.
I'm
I
telling
don't know
you.
who it is. Somebody got to go down.
I'm telling you.
Hey, Leroy, last thing. Are they going to cut A-Chain loose this week or what? I need some more fantasy points out of him. Let's go.
I need him to hold him back.
He got some run. He got some run last week.
Yeah.
They kind of what they did was towards the end of the game when they took all the starters out, they gave him about another 5 carries to let him get back into the flow of things.
He had 25 fantasy points.
I want more. I want 40.
Gee.
Here's what's crazy, Bull. Here's what's crazy.
Yeah.
You talk about A-Chan. Meanwhile, the guy in front of him got 16 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's had a great year.
I mean, I don't think nobody down here is like clamoring for A-Chan.
No, I get you.
The guy that's playing is not being successful.
Have you talked personally with McDaniel at all, or no?
Yeah, I didn't have enough time. I had to leave.
I mean, that guy seems like the coolest coach ever.
He is. He is. He really is. Here's what he is that a lot of people don't understand, and this is what I hate about how people view athletes and coaches or whatever, right? Is that he is sincere, he is a stand-up dude, and he is who he is. And if you have a problem with how kooky he is or how he says things or whatever, that's a you problem.
I agree.
I have no problem. I have no problem with people being who they are. If you have a problem with somebody and they're consistent with who they are, that's on you.
You know who he sound like? Kyle Shanahan, who he studied, who he been under.
But he's great. McDaniel's great with the media. I love that. He has fun with them.
Did you guys see the clip of who was their defensive player that tore his Achilles?
Jalen Phillips.
Yeah,
Jalen Phillips.
I saw an NFL Films clip with audio, and of that entire sequence. And Phillips was on the ground, and he looked at the defender and said, "Oh man, I think I just tore my Achilles." And he's like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I felt it pop. I think I tore it." And then they cut in the film to McDaniel standing over him, and he said he was getting emotional. He was physically crying.
Yeah.
And said, I was bawling out. And if you search the clip, what made me like McDaniel even more was the fact that the way he comforted the player in his lowest moment ever was really compassionate, and to your point, Leroy, it was genuine. It was real.
Love him.
All
I
coaches
love him.
care.
Yeah.
But in that moment, he was saying exactly what you would want to hear from a coach.
Yeah, that's cool.
In that moment. He said it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. And that's a good young player who's really, really playing well.
Really good.
And
really good.
I just thought McDaniels was great in that moment.
He's like that. He's like that with everything. Now, I will say this. If you ask him a question, he will try to answer not only your question, but all of your follow-up questions with one answer.
All at once.
So you're gonna be there a minute. You're gonna be there a minute.
So he got you beat.
Nobody's got Leroy.
he got you beat.
Hey,
you know who might have Leroy beat? Charles
If
Davis.
they had a Hall of Fame for talking,
Yeah.
Charles Davis. Hey, no, I ain't messing with him. Let me tell you a story. So here's what happened. He was announcing one of our games. It was Minnesota Vikings and the Denver Broncos. We were on our own 2-yard line. It was 3rd and 37. They give me a draw, and I go for 53 yards and get the first down.
Oh, my God.
Right?
You said it was 3rd and what?
37.
37.
And you got
Go look it
53
up.
yards?
I got 53 yards on a draw.
Damn.
This is no lie. Go look it up. It's documented. So he says, that was a great run by Leroy Hoard, which he always does. But I got to tell you, if that was Robert Smith, that would have been 6. He said this on air.
Was he lying?
Yes. Because here's the deal. That means that Robert would have had to get to the same spot I got to. And running back see things differently.
Yeah.
How many guys did you knock over to get to that 53? I can only imagine.
Nobody. I made them all miss, baby. Let me tell you something. Hold on. I didn't get touched. And I start running down the sideline, and I'm like, damn, I ain't even in the midfield yet.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody touched me, and I just fell. Ooh. He said, what happened?
We got to go, Leroy.
Leroy, you're the best.
As always.
You're the best.
Thanks, Leroy.
If that was
Oh,
Robert
my
Smith,
God.
it would have been 6.
Yeah.
That's
Leroy
classic.
is always the best. Tonight at 6:30, there's a new episode of Behind the Glass coming your way right on this YouTube channel. So make sure y'all tap in. Myself, Anthony, and Earl, talking all things sports, a little behind-the-scenes stories, and much more on Behind the Glass. Guys, we're going to switch over to baseball before we get back to football. The Guardians won the MLB Draft lottery last night. They had a 2% chance to win it, but odds be damned. Cleveland has a lot of luck when it comes to draft lotteries. This is a franchise-changing moment for the
This is something
Guardians.
that City is more lucky than most, is draft lotteries.
3 times that I can think of.
By the way, this is only the second year they've had a draft lottery
It is.
in baseball. And it was both unlikely that the Guardians would be number 1 and the Reds would be number 2, but the 2 Ohio teams 1 and 2
Yeah,
in
it's
the
crazy.
draft.
The way it works, same way as the NBA, it's weighted based on where you finished.
Right.
That's why the Guardians had a 2% chance. Bull, 1 to 10, the likelihood that this moves the meter for the franchise long term.
3.
Yeah, I'm a 2.
I was at 2 too.
Yeah.
All they gonna do, whoever they
Especially
draft, they gonna
because
trade them in
It's not a
5
science.
years.
The MLB draft is far from a science.
Now, I think they've gotten better. It's gotten better over the
They gonna
years.
trade the kid.
However, with baseball, you drafted a lot of high school kids.
Yes.
So you never know how they're going to develop. Now, this guy's drafted out of college. I love this kid. He's not. I saw a mock draft too. The kid who's 10, Tommy White, the kid from LSU.
Yeah.
I watched him in the College World Series. This guy's a hitter.
I
Wait a
remember
minute.
him too.
I like him a lot. He's
OSU?
projected number 10 right now, but we got a long way to go.
OSU is in Ohio State or Oklahoma State?
Oklahoma.
Probably Oklahoma State.
Don't do that. Well,
Yeah.
then you need to put that as
It should be OK
State.
I did
Yes.
not have enough space
didn't
in
have
the
enough
graphic.
But
Don't do that.
The negative right now is, and I'm definitely not an authority on the baseball draft.
No.
But
You are.
I did enough research to know there is not a slam dunk number 1 guy.
No.
Now we got a whole season to go. Maybe that changes.
Right.
It's more likely to change with a high school kid that all of a sudden goes bananas. But as of now, there's not a clear number 1 pick. But it's still good at the end of the
No, listen, it's better than if it would have played out. They would have had like the way the odds said.
14th,
They would have had like the
15th.
13th or 14th pick.
I
So
saw-
this is clearly better.
it's great.
Let me
But by
ask-
no means can you rubber stamp this player into the big league lineup 3
No.
years from now. It doesn't work that
Let
way.
me ask y'all two a question. When these kids come out, are they better in the pros out of high school, coming out of high school, or coming out of college?
My preference, and then I'll let you answer.
Yeah.
I would much rather draft college kids than high school kids.
Well, I mean,
it doesn't mean that
I don't know
Alex Rodriguez. There are a lot of examples.
Yeah,
of guys
I don't
that
know
have
what
been-
the
That's why-
percentage
yeah.
of success is.
I don't either.
have no idea.
I just, in my mind, as I go through things,
Yeah.
and logically, it just makes sense. Try to project the talent of a 17-year-old in anything compared to a 21-year-old.
I think a lot of
give me
teams-
the larger sample
Jay,
size.
I think a lot of teams
Well,
look
you
at the
gotta-
high school guys as having more upside. Because if a guy went to college, he probably wasn't drafted that high, or he didn't want to go to
there's
college.
examples, though, of guys who were undrafted out of high school and the next year were the number 1 overall draft.
Yeah, sure.
A couple of them recently.
But you can't come out as a freshman in college.
No, you have to stay 3 years in college.
No, but I'm
If
saying
you go
when
to
they
high school, you have to play 3
were
years.
draft eligible.
Right. It
They
happens
were
all the
not
time.
drafted out of high school.
Right.
Then when they were
You're
able to be drafted, they were
you're
number 1.
Obviously projecting more with a high school kid.
Yeah, and for me,
Yeah.
what is the draft but projection?
Right.
Now, in the case of basketball and LeBron James, not much projecting needed to be done there.
Yeah, well, same thing
Clearly.
with Bryce Harper, same thing with A-Rod.
Right.
but-
Well, there was a stretch of years where the number 1 overall pick, and I'm going to test my memory here, it was Bryce Harper, Steven Strasburg. There were 2 others. I think there was a year of 4 straight years where they all hit. That's rare.
Although Strasburg went down the tubes with
No, he
injuries.
did, but I'm saying he was a hit 5 years out of his career. He was a hit.
Are you ready for this? I have your list.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we'll go back to 2007 real quick.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So David Price turned out to be a very, very good
Excellent.
pitcher.
He was a hit.
2008, Tim Beckham,
No.
not very
Not
good.
he's a bust.
Yeah.
Steven Strasburg, 2009.
Hit.
Bryce Harper, 2010.
Big hit.
Hit.
Garrett
Trending
Cole,
towards Hall of Fame.
2011.
Hit.
Who was
Carlos
2011?
Correa.
Garrett Cole?
Garrett
Okay,
Cole.
yeah.
This is the string I'm talking about.
Carlos Correa, 2012.
Carlos Correa.
Yeah,
Those
another
4
hit.
were 4 years. And then after that,
It dropped off. Mark Appel, who was the number 1 overall pick, never went
yep,
to
I think he was a
Houston.
pitcher
He was a
Never went
bust.
to
and
for
then
the
he-
Rockies, maybe.
No,
No.
he
Who
drafted
was
him?
the Astros.
Houston, the Astros.
Okay, yeah, didn't stick.
Didn't Chris Bryant go second that year?
Chris Bryant went
Yep.
second.
Yeah.
Brady Aiken in 2014.
Miss.
Disaster. Isn't he in the Guardian system now? Or
He
he
was. He's out.
So
Yeah.
they were high school kids?
Aiken, I think, maybe was one of the guys who was not drafted in high school, but then later
Yeah,
was
I
the
don't
number
know.
1 overall.
Aiken was high school.
Okay.
Appel was the guy. You had him backwards.
What's
Okay.
15? Well, give me 15.
Dansby Swanson,
Hit.
That's a hit.
Hit.
Mikey Moniak.
And by the way, in the
Mickey
Swanson year,
Moniak.
everybody knew he was going to be a hit.
Yeah,
Everybody knew this guy was.
Mickey Moniak was a Philly. He was the Phillies, right?
He was not a hit.
Correct.
Wait, it's too soon yet. He actually got traded to the Angels last year, and he did a nice job in a part-time role. So
But no. Here's why it's not too soon.
Yeah.
That was what year?
2016, he was drafted out of high school.
but
Yeah,
he was
I don't
drafted out of
wanna
high
wait.
school.
I know. But 7 years.
Well, but
you could have taken a college guy that was 21.
but that guy might not have hit either.
Who went
so.
two in that draft, McNuggets?
I'm on a list of number 1 overall
Okay.
picks.
Go ahead.
Who was number 1 after him?
Royce Lewis in 2017.
Not-
Casey
no
Mize,
impact.
2018.
No. He's been hurt the last couple of years. He's still maybe good. He's still twins.
Yeah, Casey Mize was 18, and Adley Rutschman
Hasn't been good
who
so
was
far.
phenomenal.
Adley Rushman's a total superstar.
Yep.
He's
Then
a
you have
hit
Spencer
already.
Torkelson in 2020, Henry Davis 2021,
Those
and
guys
Jackson
are-
Holiday.
Henry
last
Davis is going to
Yeah.
be good. He came up with the Pirates
And
last
those
year.
are still two. Those are. I think those are too
Torkelson,
recent.
it's on. We don't know yet.
Yeah, too soon to
Yeah.
declare. However,
Yeah.
there
Overall, it's pretty good. I mean, most of those first overall picks. There's been first overall picks in the NFL that bust too. I mean,
Yeah.
NBA.
yeah,
For that matter.
absolutely.
I
Cavs
say
had one.
yeah.
You know what? Here's what's
Yeah.
really
The
stunning
Cavs
to me.
had one.
Here's what's stunning to me. Oh shit! I just lost my
But-
train of thought.
Well, the Guardians. I don't know if you.
Yeah,
remember.
no, they've never had a number 1 pick. That's what's stunning to me.
This
They've
is
had
the first
5
time-
number 2 picks, though.
They've had a
Who
bunch of
were-
number 2s.
Who were the 5 number 2s?
Rick Manning was the number 2.
Pull up 211, Steve. Give me 211.
Let me see.
Yeah, you
Rick
got
Manning was
Rick
number-
Manning, Steve Dunning,
Yeah,
Greg
Dunning.
Swindell, Mark Lewis, and Paul Schumann.
None of those guys were great.
Mixed results.
Yeah.
Manning, I think, was on his way to greatness
Yeah.
before he broke his back.
Manning was good. Swindell was a good pitcher.
Swindell was the lefty.
Shuey
that
was
had some good years. as
Mark
our
Lewis,
closer.
I don't even remember.
Now, wasn't he a shortstop?
I don't even know. I don't know Mark Lewis. I don't know Steve Dunning. I don't remember Steve Dunning.
He actually, I think, threw a no-hitter for Cleveland, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, at one point.
I believe.
Could be wrong.
But the Guardians had a stretch between like Sabathia and Lindor.
They nailed him.
No, where they got them all wrong. In between.
Between those two.
They had been really good before that. And
Well, but you know what? Those picks were very high.
No, that's true.
I mean, in fact, if you go back in recent memory, the Guardians / Indians have always been recently later in the draft.
So,
mid to late.
So now that the Guardians have the number 1 pick, and obviously they had a list of the top 10. I don't know where Mikey got that from, but
From MLB.com.
where do they go? What is a pitcher? What are you, a hitter?
I want to see them go
You just
hitter.
you take the best player.
Normally, well, I think you do,
Yeah.
but because the success that the Guardians have had developing pitchers that were not anywhere near number 1 overall picks,
Right.
I think that not that they've solved that Rubik's Cube, but their track record is really, really good there. This organization is pitcher heavy.
Yeah.
Look at our outfield.
But look,
this team needs bats, in my view.
I was actually listening to MLB radio this morning, and they were talking about Steve Phillips was saying the Guardians got to spend money, which he knows they're not going to. We know that. He's like, they got to sign Teoscar Hernandez. He said they should trade for Tyler O'Neill, somebody I was talking about last year. Now, he's got a lot of power, but he's missed a lot of time due to injury. But he probably would never have to give up much to get him, and then sign Teoscar Hernandez. To me, that would be great. And they also talked about moving Quan to center, which is what they got to do. They got to move Quan to center.
I think is absolutely the center fielder next year.
And we'll see. But but it's good that they got the first pick, but it's not moving the needle.
No, and from a fan excitement,
no.
Compare this to when the Cavs won the lottery for LeBron James. Obviously, that was all-time euphoria.
Sure. Even the Anthony Bennett one, which turned out to be a bust, we were talking about it a lot.
It's exciting as hell.
We're not going to talk about this again until the draft, probably.
We won't. And we're a long ways away from there.
Yeah,
and to your point of there not being a consensus number one yet.
Right, we have a whole season to go.
There never is. Because if there was a consensus number one, in all likelihood, particularly if it was a college player and he was a junior, he would have been out.
Right. The consensus number one at this time of year is only if this is a magnificent junior in high school.
Yeah, you're right.
The Bryce Harpers and guys like that.
Okay.
We're going to go from baseball back to football and hear from Joe Flacco's former coach. First, a read from FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay red hot on America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And with that, we welcome in Casey Keeler, head coach of the Sam Houston Bearcats, who, Coach, I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well. Congrats on the move.
Mikey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Coach. Long time no see. Thanks for
I thought you were in the witness protection program there for a while.
I just moved up north, Coach. I got out of the warm weather. But we are glad to have you on. Coach Keeler, also, little bio real quick, 2-time national champion, 8-time national coach of the year, has the third most active wins of any coach, third or fourth, and he coached Joe Flacco at Delaware, and he's here now to join us to talk a little Joe Flacco stories from his time back with the Blue Hens. So, guys, take it away.
When you first drafted Joe, Coach, did you know right away he was going to be an NFL player?
Well, we recruited him out of high school. And I remember him sitting in my office during the spring game. And then all of a sudden, going into his senior year, Pitt and Rutgers and Iowa and all those kind of people came in, and we lost him late. He actually played for one of my former players. And so went to Pitt, and I think he would have stayed. But, he got behind somebody, and I think, in the evaluation, it was like, listen, you're going to be the backup. And in his mind was, as long as you give me a chance to compete, I'll take a shot at this. But if I'm going to be the backup, then I'm going to transfer out. And so reach out to us. And, the crazy thing was we had to have him sit out a year because Pitt would not release him.
Oh, wow.
And I remember, him saying, like, I know I could have gone to Iowa and Rutgers and those places, but I know the single most important thing for me is I got to play. If I play, I can prove myself. And so he sat out a year. And then the next year he got a chance to play. And he played fairly well. But the team's overall success was just average, and then the next year's when things really exploded.
Coach, it's interesting. It's almost the same thing he did in his professional career. He made a bet on himself. What can you tell us about his personality, where that seems to be one of the overarching characteristics, is that this guy has a very high self-belief that he's going to get the job done?
I remember after he got drafted, he came in the office, we sat for a while, and I said, someday I'm going to be talking to a group of businessmen or a youth group or recruits, and they're going to ask me about Joe Flacco. Like, tell me what, I should say made you great. And he goes, I'm not afraid to fail. And, he didn't think twice about it. He knew that was the single most important characteristic for his success was he wasn't afraid to fail. And I think that's very true. I mean, the Super Bowl, I know there was a 4th and 1, and he could either run it or throw it, and he didn't even blink about throwing the ball out there. He wasn't afraid to, not make that play. So I mean, he's a unique guy. I tell you, the interesting thing was he came in to see me after his junior year and wanted to play baseball. And I can sometimes be sarcastic, as you probably figured out early. And I said, for who? And he goes, for Delaware. I said, we have a team? He goes, yes, we have a team. I said, you do realize that you're going to be a draft choice next year. Dad looked me straight in the eye. He goes, you truly believe someone's going to draft me? I said, yes. I said, this is Dad's idea. I know where this is coming from. I got Kirk Shiraka, my offensive coordinator, and I said, call Dad, tell him not playing baseball. And I explained to him, I said, the single most important thing for you is to develop all the things that you need to improve on over the spring. And also, now that we understand your skill set better, we're probably going to take some of that belly read out. We're probably going to do a little bit more drop back and those kind of things now that we truly understand your skill set. And so long story short, he had a phenomenal spring and started off really hot. And then I remember getting a phone call from the Baltimore Ravens and saying, hey, you know what, you guys are playing Navy this week. We're going to come down and watch practice. And they came down and watched practice, and then we played Navy. I think he threw for over 500, and we scored 54 points or maybe 59 points or whatever it was. I think he threw for 5 touchdowns. I mean, that game just absolutely catapulted him right to another level. And as the season was going on, you heard that, hey, he could be a 4th-round pick. Hey, he could be a 3rd-round pick. Hey, he could be a 2nd-round pick. And then all of a sudden there was even talk about him becoming a 1st-round pick. And then obviously he went number 18 overall. And I remember getting a phone call from Harbaugh about, Joe's leadership skills. And Joe prepped me. Joe goes, listen, Coach, they want to know why I wasn't a captain. And it was like one of those things where we had a great 4-year starter at offensive line who was an All-American, and we had another all-time, greatest running back in the history of the program. And those 2 guys were the offensive captains, and just Joe got there a little late, and just Joe wasn't the captain. But I explained to Coach Harbaugh that this was Joe's team. When Joe spoke, boy, everyone listened. Now, Joe didn't speak a lot, but when he spoke, it was like, that's the message, and we're moving forward. We're playing Northern Iowa, number 1 team in the country, and we're down early, bad. I mean, it's like they're just going to run us right out. And I remember Joe getting all the guys together on the sideline, said, hey, just someone make a play. We make one play, we're back in this thing. And our freshman left tackle cut their defensive end loose, and Joe made the play. Joe ran away and threw 150 yards downfield for a completion, and there, that was the big play we needed. We went and scored, got a turnover, scored again, and all of a sudden, we beat the number 1 team in the country. But I remember Joe getting those guys on the sideline and him, saying, hey, this is what we're doing. But he doesn't speak a lot, but when he speaks, boy, he's powerful.
Coach, when you're dealing with, college players, it's a moment that comes where you're like, you know what, this guy could be an NFL player. And I think this guy could be a draft pick. What moment was that for Joe Flacco where he was like, you know what, this guy is going to be pretty good in the NFL?
Yeah, there's couple things. First of all, we were in a scrimmage, and he pulled the ball down, and our fastest linebacker was chasing him, and he's running away from our fastest linebacker. And I said to the guys, I said, did Keandre get slow or what's going on? He goes, no, Joe's phenomenal athlete, Coach. I mean, he's like a 4.7 40, almost at 6'7". He's like 6'6.5". And so that's one of the moments where I realized what kind of athlete he was. And then we were in a spring practice, and we're in the far hash, and he throws like a 20-yard out route on the other side of the field. And I remember the referee looking at me because I was on the field. I was, spring practice. I was behind the play. And the referee looked at me and goes, I have never seen that before.
Wow.
So there were some moments where you go, boy, his talent is just ridiculous. I remember his workout for the Ravens. They came and they must have brought like 2 receivers, quarterback coach, coordinator, player personnel, general manager. I mean, there was about 10 people they brought with him. And he had his footballs all out there. And I remember I prepped him for this. I said, they're not going to let you throw your own balls. I'm going to tell you right now. And so they kicked the balls away, and they put all these brand new footballs out there, all shiny. Quarterbacks hate those balls. And Joe didn't blink. And Joe went through a 2.5-hour workout. And I remember talking to one of the scouts, and he goes, the only workout I can ever remember this good was Roethlisberger. He goes, this is as good a workout as I've ever seen a quarterback. At the very end, they asked him to stand flat-footed on the goal line, and just flat-footed, throwing it, he threw it 80 yards in the air, which I mean, he's a freakish talent. He really is. When I first saw Joe, I mean, he's down here a little bit, and I thought about maybe changing a little bit of his, and I saw how the ball came out of his hand. I'm like, he's 6'7". Who cares he's down here? Who cares he isn't up here? So anyway, I pretty much left Joe alone and just sort of put him around, good people and great players and let him take it over from there. But unique personality. He really is. I mean, again, has a very high confidence level in himself. And that was a big deal that when he went into the Ravens and he heard what their offer was, he was like, I think I can do better. I'll just bet on myself. I'll have a great year. And he went out and won a Super Bowl. And that, got him the biggest contract in the history of the NFL at the time.
Coach, obviously the last few years since leaving Baltimore, he's bounced around with a couple of teams, and now he was out of the league for most of the year. He's 38, about to turn 39. The Browns call him. He comes off the couch, and 2 weeks later he's starting, and outside of the pick he threw late, he played a fantastic game. Were you surprised he was still willing to come back, or you didn't think he was done?
No, two things. So I went down to the Texans game when he was with Denver, and he actually wasn't playing that week. He was injured. And my wife and I got a chance to spend a bunch of time with him on the sideline, and, they're talking grandkids and kids and things like that back and forth. And my wife asked, like, okay, hey, Joe, how long do you think you're going to do this? And he goes, I love practice. I love being in the locker room. Wow. I just love, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to give this up. Because I love preparation for a game. And so that was one of the key things that said to me, like, he'll play as long as he feels that he can still play. Then I texted with him in the summertime. I think it was just after I was back east and I had just come back to Texas for the start of training camp. And I just said, hey, didn't get a chance to see you, how you doing, what's up? He goes, I'm at the beach, I'm in shape, ready to get called up because I want to keep on playing. And so right there I knew that, he was going to prep himself every single day. So this in his mind was not a surprise. He probably was daily working out, getting ready for this opportunity. And like I said, when I heard him say that when he was with the Broncos and we caught up down at NRG Stadium down in Texas, I knew that he was going to take this as long as he still enjoyed it, and it sounds like he still enjoys it.
Coach, one of the things that jumps out at me, you keep using the word unique to describe Joe, and you've talked about some of the characteristics. I'm interested in Joe Flacco, the leader. This is an interesting situation because it's not going to be, a situation where he plants his flag and says, I'm the de facto leader of this franchise, because obviously Deshaun Watson is on the roster. How do you think he'll navigate those waters? Because obviously he's here in a pinch for the moment, but who knows what happens beyond this year? How will he work in that role?
Yeah, I mean, if you're use this word again, uniquely. I mean, he's not going to let his ego get in the way here. He's been around long enough. He's enough savvy to know this is not his team. But in the moment, they need him to lead. And so he'll speak when he needs to speak, and he'll make sure that he's not going to be too overt where he's trying to take things over. And that's just his general leadership skill. I mean, he never was one of those guys. Some guys are trying to always look for that opportunity to lead. Like, oh, hey, there's an opportunity. I'm going to insert myself. Joe inserts himself when he feels there's a need to insert himself. So it's very much of a natural leadership. It's not a phony or made up or looking for that opportunity. An opportunist. Like, hey, there's an opportunity for me to insert myself. He's very much he's very comfortable in his own skin, very comfortable with who he is as a person. And again, if there's an opportunity that he needs to say something, he will. But he's not going to, go overboard and rock the boat or create any issues. That's why he probably was the perfect guy to bring in. Still has a skill set where he can sling the ball all over the field. And is the kind of person that just will mold into whatever the situation is.
Coach, last thing, if you were in a tough spot off the field, football unrelated, and you need a helping hand, are you calling Joe Flacco or you're calling our producer, who we now refer to as Mikey McNuggets? Who is your
First of
go-to
all, I don't
call?
know, like that whole witness program. It's hard to find those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can find Mikey McNuggets. I don't know if that's possible. But no, Joe's just so reliable. One last great story. He just signed his $120 million contract. And don't you know, like a reporter was following him out of the interview, and he stops at McDonald's to get McNuggets. Speaking of McNuggets. And then I actually had lunch with him the next day. And so we're out there for about 2.5 hours just talking about football and life, and they had won the Super Bowl, and there's interesting things that went along with that. They had fired their offensive coordinator during that run and all those things. We were talking about that. And so about 2.5 hours into it, I see him start reaching for his wallet, in which he forgot. And so it's like, you're buying, right? And it's like, yeah, you decided a $120 million contract, but I'm buying. But anyway,
that's why those guys stay rich.
For sure.
Yeah,
hey, Coach,
right.
really quickly, it just came to my mind, and I'm curious. We've seen recently that former quarterbacks have transitioned and become head coaches in the NFL. Obviously, Doug Peterson's having some nice success, having won a Super Bowl. Is Joe coach material in your mind?
I don't know. I mean, he loves the game so much, and he loves to talk about football. I mean, I know, when he would come back and actually get on the board and say, here are some of the things that I really like that we're doing down in Baltimore that I wish maybe we had in our repertoire here when I was still the head coach at Delaware. So, I mean, I think maybe commentating might be, more something he would do, but he does love the game so much. But also these guys look at us and they realize the hours we put in,
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
I've been married 38 years. I mean, I'm one of the few, it's hard. I mean, we always call it dog years. So I think my wife and I have like 260 years under our belt because, the life that we live, especially now in the college world with the portal and NIL, I mean, it's a different world. So I think if he's going to coach, I think maybe it would be the pro game because the college game has just changed so dramatically. It's a lot more CEO-ish. Being a head coach is very CEO-ish more than actually coaching the players. It's more managing the climate, managing the expectations, setting the culture, all those kind of things. Those are the most important things now to be a head college football coach. The X's and O's are such a small part of it.
Well, Coach, as we say goodbye, I want to tell you that Mikey had really set the bar high for you. He's like, you guys are going to love him. He's a great storyteller. He's a great guy. For once, Mikey was right.
Yeah.
He nailed it.
There you go.
He did.
Coach, continued success to you, man.
I appreciate it. I grew up a Cleveland Browns fan.
Wow.
Mike Sipe, Leroy Kelly, Jim Brown. For some reason, my dad, we grew up in Emmaus, Pennsylvania, figure that out, was a Cleveland Browns diehard. And so Paul Warfield, the whole gang, I would follow you guys. So I'm still a Cleveland Browns fan.
We love it.
Hey, wait, Coach, before you go, it would be unfair if we brought you on and I didn't play this video, but you see the ring on his finger. The only championship I got to cover was courtesy of this man right here. Steve, let's roll 173 real quick.
Oh, this is going to be good.
This was the celebration in Dallas when they beat South Dakota State for the championship. So,
nice.
Coach, champion, a great storyteller,
cool.
and you're always welcome back on the Ultimate
Thanks,
Cleveland
Coach.
Sports Show.
Go.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Coach Keeler.
That was great.
Mikey, you nailed it, man.
Yeah,
great insight on Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful storyteller. And it's easy to see why he's had so much success.
That was a big-ass ring.
It was a big-ass ring.
It is a very big ring, yes.
Or bar, as they call it in the business.
And he's got two of them, so.
Yeah. No, he
only coach to win a national championship at two separate FCS schools. He
No
won
kidding.
at Delaware and at Sam Houston, so.
Wow. Kudos
He knows
to
a thing
him.
or two.
Yeah, kudos to him. It's clear.
We're going to play True or False now. And True or False today is brought to us by Jace Medical. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, giving you peace of mind so you're not just hoping you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Case makes sure you have the medication in hand, and it's simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care so you don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today from Jace Medical by using promo code LOCKEDON at jacemedical.com.
Sounds like the name of a rich guy from Connecticut. I am winning.
Yeah, just for this segment, I will only answer if I'm referred to as Mr. I am winning.
We will not be referring to you that way.
This is my. No, I know you.
It'd be great if he just doesn't say
I'm just calling my shot right now. I'm calling my shot.
All right, Mikey.
Today's true or false subject is QB1. It is Joe Flacco, and Coach Keeler gave away one of the answers.
We got it misspelled there. We got it misspelled there.
I spelled his name wrong. My bad, Flacco.
That wasn't Cantaspelli? It was you?
No, that was me today.
Wow.
That was me today. Hand up. My
Quick
bad.
fix.
So today is Joe
Fixed on the
Flacco.
spot.
It is fixed. Steve, hit the music, and let's play a little true or false for QB1.
By the way, when you try to voice text Joe Flacco, it comes up Flacko.
And
I
remember,
thought you were gonna
Earl,
say it comes
as he
up
said yesterday,
flaccid.
is wacko for Flacco. So let's
would be
start.
good.
True or false? Joe Flacco has the most road playoff wins in NFL history. True
Yeah,
or
what is
false?
this music? It sounds like someone just died.
It's
The
ominous.
most road wins.
Dramatic.
Eli Manning has a lot of road wins.
False.
I'm going
from
false.
Bull. True
going
from
false,
Tyvis.
too.
False from Jay, which means either Tyvis is in the lead or he's in the hole. The answer
Eli.
is false. It's not Eli. It's actually Tom Brady.
I was
going to
say, it's got to be Brady.
I was
Brady.
gonna
Joe
say-
Flacco
The guy
is
has so
second.
many more victories
I
than any other
thought I was
quarterback.
gonna say him, but then I
Flacky?
was like, he was always winning.
They were always at home a
Yeah,
lot.
they was always at
Was he
home.
I-
So how many does Brady have?
Brady has 11. Flacco has 8.
How many does Eli have? 6?
6.
Usually I play the field on that. It always say.
Wait,
Well-
can we just talk about this music?
It's
Steve,
yeah. What
go
is
back
with
to the
this
original music.
Is that Christmas music? What is it?
It sounds like something from Mr. Rogers.
We're going to go back to the original.
Or
We're just trying to mix
Unsolved
it up a little bit.
Mysteries?
Who cares? Who cares?
Well, our old music was so dramatic and game show-ish.
Revenge.
Here you go. It's back. Question number 2. Joe Flacco started his college career at the University of Pittsburgh before transferring to Delaware.
Bum, 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 bum.
True.
bum. Didn't he say that?
He said it in the interview,
Coach Keeler
Tyvis.
literally just said it in the interview,
I wasn't paying
Tyvis.
attention.
Oh
The
my-
answer is true. Tyvis is wrong again. The other two are right. Coach Keeler gave that one away.
Oh, wait. I have one more demand throughout this segment. If I am going to be referred to as I am winning, Tyvis is to be referred to for the rest of this segment as you are losing.
Great penmanship.
Yeah, I'm awful. My handwriting. The only time I ever got unsatisfactory on my grade card was for handwriting. It was a mess, man.
Number 3. Joe Flacco
Please, I pay
shared the
attention.
Colonial Athletic Association's Offensive Player of the Year award with University of New Hampshire quarterback Ricky Santos. This is all true or all false. I'm not giving you any half answers today. It's either all true or all false. Did Joe Flacco share the CAA Offensive Player of the Year award with quarterback Ricky Santos? Bull says true. Jay says false. Tyvis says false. And Tyvis, you have started out 0-3. It is true. Ricky Santos is
Can't
real.
get out the gate.
He was a quarterback in New Hampshire, and he shared the award.
Bull's got 3. I've
Joe
got
Flacco.
2.
I feel like I'm like that horse that can't get out the gate, man. Can't get out the
You
gate.
are losing.
All right.
You
The
L.
Cavs
Washington.
went down 3-1 and still won. So
Oh, that's a fact.
Question number 4. Joe Flacco has never thrown more than 19 interceptions in a single season of his 16-year NFL career.
By the way, you said that as if 19 was an acceptable number.
Yeah, like, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't say it's acceptable. I just said that's the number.
I hope he did. I would hope. for
True,
his sake
false.
that
So
he
either
did.
Bull knows Joe Flacco inside and out, or he's a good guesser. But the answer is false. Joe Flacco threw 22 interceptions.
remember that.
I might
in
not get
13.
one. I might not
22
get one
interceptions.
right.
Was that his last full year in Baltimore?
2013. No, that was the year after he won the Super Bowl.
Oh.
Really?
His last full year in Baltimore was
He was never worth
2017.
that money after that year.
What was
well,
his?
you know
what
what?
was
It's
his,
funny. Looking back at that deal, it was
Yeah.
the biggest at the time.
Yeah.
It was like
120
$20 million a year.
What was
Which
the
at the time was a lot.
It was the
McNuggets,
record.
you know his ratio that year?
I do. He threw 19 touchdowns, 22 interceptions,
Oh.
played all 16 games.
Right,
The
and they
Ravens
just
had
paid him
me
a ton of
saying,
money.
what did we just do?
Oh, yeah.
But they got a
bad.
Super Bowl out of
He
it.
did. They did, but they were never. He was never the same after that.
Man,
They could
should have
have
signed
had.
him to a 1-year
They
contract.
could have had two, but my boy Lee Evans dropped the ball at the end zone one year.
Yeah, Buffalo, right? Was he on Buffalo?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right,
he
what
went to
else?
Bedford.
I'm
High
2 down
school.
now. I got
Two
a
down.
long way
Anthony,
to
let's
go.
get a score update halfway through.
No,
Four,
Is at
2,
4.
0.
Jay is at 2. Tyvis is this year's biggest loser at 0.
By the way, the score is currently 420. It doesn't mean anything to
Yeah.
me, but it might mean something.
Has
to those
anybody?
at
I
home.
know we've gotten 1-8 before.
We got a perfect
Jay's
game.
gone
Yeah,
perfect
I-
once.
I had
Jay
a
went
perfect
perfect with
game.
3.
I'm trying to go perfect here. Have we ever had a 0?
We've never had a goose egg.
Okay.
Come on, Ty, you
Tyvis,
can
you're
do
in
it.
line for history. Let's go to the second
You
half
still
of
can
true or
finish
false.
ahead of Jay.
True or false? Joe Flacco has the most career passing yards and touchdowns of any quarterback that has never been to a Pro Bowl.
Dang, it would have been true, but Matt Stafford does have one Pro Bowl.
Oh,
Pro Bowl, not Super Bowl. Pro Bowl.
You know what? At this point, it doesn't matter.
Tyvis says true. 3 trues, 3 correct answers. It is true.
Yes.
Joe Flacco has never been to the Pro Bowl.
Comeback
Never been to
has
a Pro Bowl.
begun.
he was picked 1 year, but he didn't go.
He was an alternate in 2014, declined.
The comeback has commenced.
Well, no, it hasn't because you didn't gain any ground.
I'm off the gate though.
You are out the gate.
Yeah, you're not,
No
you're not
longer
gonna.
You gotta take
get
baby
stumped.
steps in this. But when you down, you gotta take real
fair
baby
enough.
steps.
5-3-1.
All right, next up. Joe Flacco did not throw a touchdown in his first career NFL start, but he did run for a 38-yard touchdown in that game. False for Tyvis. He's saying he does not have wheels. Jay says true. Bull says
Oh,
true.
please be false.
The answer
False.
is true.
Wow.
For 11
Holy
years,
cow.
that record stood as the longest
Dang, I wanted
quarterback
that one.
run.
I just figured he wouldn't be
4
asking
touchdowns.
it if it didn't happen.
in
You
Ravens
You know, with
history.
McNuggets, he'll say 37 yards or something like that. So.
Yeah, it's true.
No.
He would.
No,
It's
this
all
is
or
true.
nothing now.
Guess how many times Lamar Jackson has now since broken that
Oh,
record?
probably 20.
He's got 13 times. 13 times. 13
So
rushing
that,
touchdowns.
so
That's
he
30
had
or
the
more yards.
record, and Lamar. Has
Well, I mean, the
broken
Ravens
13
weren't around
times.
for very long. They were
Oh,
around
okay.
for
Oh, the
15.
team record?
Yeah,
Yeah.
team record.
Oh, see, I thought.
That
That's
was
not
the
that
team record
impressive.
probably for the longest rush by a quarterback. But it's since been
Yeah.
obliterated a million times.
A couple times,
13
yeah.
times.
All right, next up. In 2017, Fanatics conducted a survey to find out who the most attractive player in the NFL was. Joe Flacco was the winner.
There's a lot of pressure on me here to try to get the second perfect game ever.
Both 6-0. Tyvis says false. Dude, terrible.
Wait, what year was this?
2017.
Oh, I was in the league. We know it's false.
We have 3 falses across the board. Bulls chase for perfection. Steve, take it, please. Is over. It is true. Now, I was surprised. Jimmy Garoppolo was in the league by this point.
I know. There's no way he's better looking than Jimmy G. That's the best looking man in football.
Clearly, it was
And
a
Tom
miscount.
Brady's better looking than
I
him.
double checked. Fanatics did the survey.
That's terrible.
Joe Flacco was voted on by fans, so you can blame the fans.
I had a feeling it was true. I
The
should.
fan, you know what it was? I wasn't as
I
big
wrote
of
true and
I
changed
wasn't as big of a name in 2017. So that's
As you were in 2018,
Nah, that's true.
you were a household name by 18.
All right, last question. Bull has this in the bag. We're going to finish up, then we're going to bring on Tony Wiggins of the Locked On Jaguars podcast. I see him in the queue. We'll get to you in 1 sec, Tony. Tyvis, you better know this one.
why would I
This
know
is you
this?
specific. You'll find out in a sec. True or false? Joe Flacco's brother, Tom, played quarterback for 2 seasons in the Canadian Football
Why would
League.
I know that?
You also played in the Canadian Football
Did
League.
he play for the BC Lions? Because I can tell you he did.
Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he doesn't exist. True or false? His brother Tom played 2 seasons in the Canadian Football League.
I think I would have heard that.
Tyvis says true. 2 falses. Tyvis,
I played with
you
him.
finally got it. It is true. His brother played for Saskatchewan and Ottawa. 2 years.
What year was this?
Yeah, Bull is winning.
2020 and 2021.
Yes. Didn't I win 2 in a row? We haven't played in a while, but I thought I won the last time we played.
You might be the defending. I think he is.
I think he is the defending champ. This is now 2 times in a
He's
row.
now
2 in a row, baby.
Bull, congratulations.
To year 3.
You are the winner.
You get smoked.
What do you mean he won 33?
33. That's his 33rd title. And true or false?
No, it's not. What is wrong with you?
I'm just making up numbers like
we
you.
just gonna lie?
You sit here and make up numbers all the time.
How you gonna be mad at me because I won the belt the most?
It's nothing but love for you. You know that.
He mad at me. Listen, I don't know Joseph Flacco. I don't know.
In fairness, Tyvis, you're the easiest person to ball bust on this show.
You are.
It's McNuggets.
No.
No, it's you. It's not
No,
even
but
close.
McNuggets doesn't care. You're the only one you care the most when you get your balls busted.
I don't. No, that's not true.
Yes, that's definitely true.
That's not true at all.
I think it's
Guys,
good.
I have good news before our next guest. Mary Kay just tweeted that Browns cornerback Denzel Ward says he'll practice today and will speak at the podium tomorrow.
Let's go.
Which is a good sign
a
to
big
having
plus.
That's a
Denzel
huge step.
play on Sunday.
Because the Browns had said that the hope was they can get him back on the practice field Wednesday.
Yeah, they need him for Ridley.
Man, they really do. He's a tough matchup for him. Ridley's a big receiver, isn't he?
Ridley's
like
but
6'4",
Ridley,
isn't he?
we'll get our Jaguars guy on.
We have our
Ridley's been
Jaguars
up
guy
and
who's going to
down this
answer
year. It's
all
weird
these
he's-
questions tonight.
Yeah.
Real quick, reminder, 6:30, Behind the Glass, me, myself, Anthony Cantaspelli, Earl of Pearl. Everything you need to know.
Such a great
6:30 on Behind the Glass. And now let's welcome in Tony Wiggins of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, who has all the answers on what size, how
Tony.
fast, everything to know about Calvin Ridley. What's up, Tony?
What's happening, folks? How y'all doing?
Doing good, Tony. Hey, is that fair to say that Calvin Ridley's been a little up and down this year? Is that a fair analysis?
Yeah. Yeah, it is fair. I mean, he has. According to Doug Peterson, though, it has nothing to do with Calvin Ridley's ability. It's just sometimes that's the way the game goes. And we can agree to disagree with that because when you have a number one receiver, I don't care what the ebb and the flow of the game is. You have to force it to him and find him. But from a stature standpoint, I got to correct you. He's 6'1", about 190 pounds. He's not very big.
Not that big.
No.
He's actually built more like a slot guy, but the route running and the speed is what leads folks to think that he is a little bit bigger, that he can play outside. He's good outside. I don't know if he's great.
One of the reasons I thought he was bigger was, and the play was called back because of a holding penalty, but that play at the end of the game, near the end of the game, where they just throw the ball up deep to him, he played, to me anyhow, he looked bigger than 6'1", because he high-pointed it, and it was like the defensive back didn't have a prayer. That was a hell of a catch in that situation.
Heck of a catch, heck of a throw, heck of cojones to call that at that point.
I agree.
Because if you watch it, what Anton Harrison did was once he saw that the defensive end was trying to release and go outside, he actually let him go. And what the guy did was he sold it. He flopped all over the place on the foul. It was too bad that it came down to that. For everything that he did to catch that ball, he dropped one that was just as easy earlier. And that's the up and down you're talking about. You don't expect the guy that you trade for, who you're going to bring here as the number one X receiver, to even drop that pass or any pass like that in a game where it's this much between winning and losing.
Tony, let's talk about Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, the guy has had a really good season. The team's having a really good season. The injury is a big deal. We are all assuming he's not going to play this week with a high ankle sprain. It is good news that he's not out for the year, but what do the Jags do here? Because obviously they're in great shape to make the playoffs, but the division's not a short thing because Houston and Indy are both decent, especially Houston. And you don't want to rush him back, but it's not that much time. How do you think they handle this here?
Well, it's an easy sell for Doug Peterson. One, he took a backup quarterback and won the Super Bowl. Two, they just got beat by a backup quarterback the other night. So, I mean, it's like I looked at the Cleveland game early in the year. I said, that's a trap game. And that's a game that the formula, no matter what the records are, that's a tough win. They got a real good defense. And then when I saw the quarterback wasn't hurt, and then the next quarterback was like, okay, win. Well, guess what? I go back now, and I hope I didn't put that in red because now I want to erase it because there are no easy wins in the National Football League. But it looks like he'll be out this week. It's a high ankle sprain usually a high ankle sprain, they say it's worse than a break. But this one, they say he didn't lose any of his stability. So they're thinking that they can bring him back maybe a week after next. But in terms of the playoffs, look, they're a game up in the standings, but that's like 2 games because they own the tiebreakers against everybody. With the last 5, if they go 3-2, one of the other teams has to run the table in order for them to not win the division.
Yeah, that's true.
When you look at the Cleveland Browns offense, obviously we on our 4th quarterback, Amari Cooper went down with a concussion. Don't know if he's going to be cleared to play. What is it about the Browns offense that kind of worries you a little bit?
The same thing that worried me about the offense this past week against Cincinnati, and that is if the defense, to me, it's me versus me. If you're not ready to play, if you somehow think that this is easy because those guys are not there, it'd be a great mistake. Because one thing Cleveland does still have, I think they still have a healthy offensive line. And if the quarterback is mobile and can extend plays long enough, when the Jaguars play, man, you got professional hitters over there. Amari Cooper is a guy who has been around long enough to find those creases and areas in that zone where he can sit down. David Njoku can do the same thing. So giving a team confidence, a team that can play through their defense and create certain matchups and situations based on field position and getting on and off the field on 3rd down, once they get confidence, man, anything can happen. We saw that just the other start in Pittsburgh, Arizona the other day. This is the NFL, and one thing, I have a profound respect for everyone who makes a team, not just the stars, because I know how hard it is to do that, and guys are going to try to beat you every single week regardless of what their record is.
Tony, I, like many other media members, was crapping all over Jacksonville when they signed Christian Kirk. I remember when they signed that contract, I'm like, what are they, nuts? This guy's an average receiver. The Jaguars are out of their mind. I was wrong. I mean, he's been phenomenal for Jacksonville, and that's a big loss that he's out for the season, no? I think it's a pretty big deal.
No, it is. It is a big deal. He's steady Eddie. He's just one of those guys that is a paid professional who knows how to catch balls, who knows how to find the little spots, who actually has that little thing with Trevor, like they almost know exactly where the other person is at all times. And anybody that puts up those numbers, even the numbers that he had in Arizona as a number 2 receiver, he was 1 catch away from 1,000 yards. Doesn't it amaze you that if a guy has like 986 yards, we look at him one way, but if he gets one more catch for 14 yards, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that I think sometimes, especially when you sit in the seats that we do, whether you're a player or a guy like me that's covered the NFL for almost 2 decades, you start to really listen to the coach speak and the things that coaches say. And you talk to scouts, and they don't look at it the way fans do. So a 1,000-yard receiver doesn't mean anything out of context. So I think he's played really, really well, and he's more than him and Zay Jones. They both have surprised me that they earned their money.
Tony, speak to the head coach spot and what Doug Peterson has meant to this organization, particularly coming off what was a disastrous Urban Meyer experience, and how quickly they've just sort of flipped. And I'm getting nasty looks from my partner here, but it didn't go well in Jacksonville, and not even you can argue that, Tyvis. But what he's done, I don't think has received enough credit around the league, because Lawrence was looked at as a bust. It looked like the franchise had no pathway to getting out of where they were. And now here they are in the mix for home field in the AFC.
Yeah, so I feel 2 ways about that. One of them is I try to look at Doug Peterson on face value for what he truly is, and that's a guy that has won a Super Bowl. Now, the thing that gives you trepidation is no one has ever won a Super Bowl in one place and gone somewhere else in the NFL and won a Super Bowl. True. So you're sitting there thinking, for him to come here, he has to like walk on water and do something that no one else has ever done. That's one thing. But the other thing is it's a little bit unfair to look at him as the savior, considering what he saved us from. Urban Meyer, in August, his first year, I got a text from a guy who he's a Power 5 coach now, but he used to be a scout in the Jaguars building, who had a lot of friends. And he told me, he said, Bobby Petrino. I promise you, those are the 2 words I got when I text. And I knew what he was talking about. And I said, you're kidding me, right? He says, no. Somebody in that building told him Urban wasn't going to last the whole year.
Wow.
And sure enough, it started happening. So when you look at Doug Peterson coming in and taking over that situation, yeah, he has done a tremendous job with how he handled everyone and turned them around and didn't have to go in and deal with everybody's psyche and all of that. But a part of that, too, is maybe they cheated the grind a little bit because he actually did flip it too quickly and too fast. And that's almost an oxymoron when you think a coach is supposed to win, right? But I'm talking about in terms of our expectations.
Yeah.
Maybe our expectations got a little bit too elevated because they won 7 straight games down the stretch and came back from a 27-0 deficit and played well against Kansas City. Was there something in that process that they missed a little bit only because they were allowed to skip to the front of the line? And we'll just have to see. But they continue to not win games at home. Every time they've had a chance to make a statement against a really good team, they've laid an egg. But this is the NFL, and they won 8 straight games on the road. Yeah. It's the craziest thing in the world. They've done things that you're not supposed to do, but then done things that you're not supposed to do in a bad way.
Yeah.
We'll just have to wait and see.
Tony, Travis Etienne, he's injured his rookie year, doesn't play. Last year he was great. He averaged over 5 yards a carry. This year he's under 4 yards a carry. And he seems to be struggling. Now, I'm not watching the Jaguars every week like you are. So is this an Etienne issue or is this an offensive line issue?
It's an offensive line issue.
Okay.
He's a little bit banged up now. He came into the game with what they call a chest injury. I found out it was really his ribs. But you noticed the other night in critical, a guy you guys know very well, Dearness Johnson. Yeah. Dearness Johnson was in the game in critical moments.
Yep.
And you're like, wait a minute. Doesn't Etienne supposed to be in there? Isn't this their Bryant Westbrook? That's who they throw the screen passes and all of this stuff. I don't think he's himself right now, and I think he's a little bit banged up, and this is a sign that you really do need a 1-2 combination in the National Football League. He takes a lot of hits. He does better this year. Last year, it looked like he had a car accident every single time he got tackled last year. Well, this year, he started to run a little bit more behind his pads instead of with his legs, and he started to know when he can and can't get a touchdown. So, therefore, he started to protect himself a little bit better. But now it's like everybody's teeing off on him because that offensive line, man, I'm telling you, it leaves a lot to be desired. And you guys that have watched or played this game understand this. It's the interior 3 that's giving them a problem. What worse can you have than a quarterback or a running back that as soon as they get them touched?
Yeah, you're right. There was a couple times Dearness got blown up. Tony, you mentioned the struggles at home and the success on the road. How are you explaining that?
I have no idea. They almost have pretty wives and pretty girlfriends or something, man. I'm telling you, and they ain't getting enough sleep the day before the game. I don't. If my wife is watching right now, baby, that's why sometimes I don't do well on podcasts the day after. I get it. So my point is, I have no idea. It's perplexing to us because they have a new facility, a marvelous new practice facility with state-of-the-art everything. There's not a whole bunch of distractions around here. Look, if you're a millionaire with money, I don't care where you are. There can be distractions, but there's a limit to that stuff around here. I have no idea why they go on the road. I think they're probably still living on that, when the roles get reversed, when the rabbit has the gun. I think they're used to being the people that are hunting instead of being the hunted. And I think that's a part of that process I'm talking about where you start to transition from when everybody knows that you're the guy, can you handle being the man with everybody coming for you?
Yeah, I was surprised. I know he doesn't have a lot of touchdowns this year, but when they had the stat on the Monday night game that it was Evan Ingram's first touchdown at home, I was like, man, he had an awesome year last year. I couldn't believe he had no home touchdown. He's a good player. They've been using him more lately. It seemed like earlier in the year he was kind of the forgotten guy, but he's one of those, like we know about the elite tight ends in the league, but he's in that second group of tight ends. I think he's very underrated. What's your take on him?
Yeah, I like him. I got to tell you this. I have a personal bias against what they call move tight ends because I think a move tight end that isn't an inline blocker it's like knowing what kind of hand he has in poker. That's what it is from a play calling standpoint. He ain't out there to block nobody. So if you're going to have a move tight end in the game, why don't you just have another receiver?
He plays like a receiver.
Right, and that's the point. The thing is I would love to see them be able to attack the seam in the middle of the field more with a tight end, especially against a base 4-3 defense where you could get it right over the head of the linebacker, but in between the linebacker and the single high or free safety, the way George Kittle does and the way obviously Kelsey does. That's not who he is. He catches most of his balls outside of the hash marks or either on some sort of drag route. I really would love to see them have that big, steady, regular 6'4", 250-pound guy that can look like he's blocking and then run right behind the linebackers. You know the play where the quarterback of the opposite team throws at the back of the head of the Mike linebacker who's running down the sink? That's the play that they don't have in their repertoire because I don't think that's the kind of guy he is.
When you look at C.J. Beathard for this week, since he's probably going to be the starting quarterback, are you confident that he has what it takes to get it done to win this game against Cleveland?
In terms of how confident that back, I would say no, but then I just saw a dude go 32 for 37. It seemed like that kid was 79 out of 70, out of 80 the other night. So I won't discount a professional. And the one thing that he does have an advantage with is that he's been in the building now. This is his third year, and he's there every day, and he understands what he's supposed to do. My bigger question is, does Press Taylor know what his limitations are? And if he does, there's a fine line between playing scared and playing and building a game plan towards his limitations. And a lot of times, this is what I get on our fans about. Everyone thinks it's a play calling issue, play calling. And I say, you know what? Coaches spend 3 hours a game calling plays, and half of those are on offense and half of those are on defense. They spend 72 hours planning a game plan. I think the game plan is more important than actually play calling. And I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think sometimes fans watch the game and think that the dude is just up there like he's playing Madden. Let me try this. Let me try. No, they're trying what they said all week was working. They have this sheet. This is what we said is going to work. And the worst thing that you could do is go in there and quit on that too quickly or admit that you're wrong halfway through the game because now you're telling your players that you weren't right about everything you told them to do all week and you're getting them on the fly to making an adjustment. And I just think and I hope that they put him in the right situation and know what his limitations are, but also be willing to take a chance or two so you get some confidence.
Are people in Jacksonville favorite baseball team, favorite basketball team?
Probably the Atlanta Braves if you're looking at the Jacksonville natives. And favorite basketball team, I would say, this is funny, I want to say the Orlando Magic, but whenever the Miami Heat are winning, these fans come out of the Miami Heat fans come out of the sewer. I'm telling you, anytime they start winning, I'm just like you. I'm a Laker fan. You know a Laker fan, whether it's good or bad. We are purple and gold. You know, I'm not with the whole LeBron crew of people that's going to come, and when he leaves, they're going to leave. The Lakers, we're too good for that. So we're not into one player, but it's probably the Magic and the Braves, but I got to shout out those Heat fans that seem to crawl out of the sewer every time they look like they have a chance to make it to the playoffs.
That's funny.
What's your prediction, Tony? What's your prediction for the game?
I think it's going to be ugly. I'm going to go 17-16 on the Brandon McManus field goal at the end of the game. I got a quick Cleveland story. Can I tell it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I had my ex-wife, mother of my kids was from Cleveland, so I spent a lot of time up there. Eating Polish boys and all of that stuff, hanging around Superior and, you know, all of that stuff and Drexel and all of that. So I went down to the Flats one night, and this is back in the 90s when I was a bouncer in a nightclub in D.C. And there was a player that played for Cleveland who was from D.C., and I ran into him. His name was Orlando Brown. And we talked, and me and Big Zeus hung out. He recognized me. And he introduced me to this girl. He said, man, she's a singer. She's breaking into the industry. I'm going to give you a name and number. Please hook it up. Try to promote it when you get back home.
Tell me that.
No, I'll tell you what happened. When he passed, unfortunately, I saw his wife on TV, and it was Myra. It's the same girl that he met at the club that night, and it turns out to be Orlando Jr.'s mom. And it's just like I told my people, I said, I know that lady. I was there the night he met her, and they were like, you lying. So I finally get to tell that story. I met him at the Flats, at the Mirage nightclub. Nice. Everybody's line dancing at the Mirage. I didn't know none of the Cleveland dances, but there's my Orlando Zeus Brown and Cleveland story.
That's a great story, Tony. I'm glad you told it. Listen, excellent work, man.
Did you get a chance to tell his son that when they played the Bengals last week or no?
I did not. I tweeted it out to him, and you know, tell him where that went. But I didn't want to really bring it up too much because it's like a tragic situation. Sure. But it's just like for me to know his dad from DC, and to meet him when he met, you know, he was there meeting the mom who could sing. And then I was just like, when he passed, she was on TV with the lawsuit about, you know, him not being able to lift weights. And I was like, this can't be the same person. And as soon as her picture popped up, I was like, well, damn. it was her.
Wow.
So good, nice little story, man.
It is. I'm glad you shared it with us. Tony, great work.
Thanks
For joining us, man. We appreciate it. Enjoy the game Sunday.
I appreciate it. All right, thank you. And by the way, dude, Tyvis, you were the best looking dude when you played. I'm just gonna lay that out there. You ain't gotta say Paul.
I appreciate that, man. Look at that. We gotta have him back on again.
Yeah. Tony, we're not gonna get him out of the studio. His head's too big.
Hey, man.
That's it. It's all over now.
Tony, thanks.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank y'all, man. Appreciate it.
Great stuff. Mikey, kudos to you or Steve or whoever found him and booked him. And I know he's in the family on Locked On, but he's tremendous.
Yeah, he knows his
We've got
stuff.
some good between the Tony today, the Rams guy last
Rams
week
guy
was
off the
phenomenal.
chart too.
And even before, who did play before the Rams? Denver. We had the really good
he
lockdown
was
guy in
good
Denver,
too.
Cody
Oh,
Ward.
yeah,
He was
yeah.
phenomenal in Denver. So,
Yeah, but Tony
3 in a row.
is very, very, very good at what he does.
I like how
Funny
he
guy.
speak his mind.
I
also
like it.
very
Yeah,
funny
no,
on Twitter. Give him a follow. We tweeted out his handle in the upcoming show. Trust me, he's worth a follow.
Yeah.
I like
There
his
you go.
style.
Speaks his
You're
mind.
right. He comes right at it. He
Yeah.
doesn't sugarcoat anything, and he's very good at his job. Very good.
We got some super chats, and then we're going to start Ask the Show, which we're going to continue in overtime, and I got a little
Nice.
breaking MLB news for you guys. But first, we're going to do super chats.
MLB.
And as always, super chats are brought to us by PCC Airfoils. If you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils at Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up. Plus, full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. Only 3 super chats today.
Yeah.
First one comes from Professor Chaos. I was wondering what game would be more important to the Browns' season, to beat the Jaguars or the Texans. For me, it's the Jaguars to end this losing streak. Do you guys agree?
I say Texans because they're going to ultimately be in the mix for a wild card. I don't think the Texans are going to win the division. I think it'll be Jacksonville.
So what was the question again, Mike? Sorry.
Which one would you
More
rather
important
win?
game, in your opinion,
A
Texans
bigger win.
or Houston?
Which would be a bigger win? The Texans, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, just because you're going to be fighting for one of those wild
And
cards
that's the
with
bet.
the Texans.
And right now, because there's no Trevor Lawrence, the best team you're going to play the rest of the year is the Texans.
Yeah.
So that would be the most impressive win.
I think he was
Next one.
talking about it like which in significant. Which would be the more significant win in terms of their playoff chances?
Well, for
and that's
that
Houston too.
Because he mentioned it. Even if Jacksonville goes 3-2,
They're still going to win their
they're
division.
going to the division. Unless Texans go 5-0.
I'll tell you though, that division, which a couple of weeks ago seemed like
A lot better than we thought.
It's locked up.
Indeed.
It's a one-game. There's 2 teams just a game behind them.
Right, but he mentioned they've got
right.
the tiebreaker over both.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. So they've got.
It's like a
they've
2-game
got
lead,
essentially. They've got to
yeah.
beat them.
Who's the one at? Oh, the Titans.
Well, the division's a lot better than it's been the last couple of years.
A lot better.
Those 3 teams are all at least decent.
I looked at that like I look at the NFC South coming into the
not
season, but
anymore.
it's turned into a dogfight.
And Tennessee, which had been the best team in that division for a number of years, is
it's
the
the
worst
doormat now. Yeah.
And the Texans play them twice still.
I know they do.
Go ahead,
Our
Mike.
last super chat of the day comes from Logan O. He says, I need a BC Lions Tyvis Powell jersey.
Oh, yes.
You
we all
won't.
need that.
You won't get it because
Can you get it?
I didn't make it out of camp.
Oh,
I was the last cut in camp, so you didn't.
Did you come home with any gear? BC Lions gear?
So when I got cut from any place I ever been, I did not take any of the gear.
You were like, screw those guys.
Yeah,
I get
that's
it.
why today you never.
Not even as like a
That's why
memento?
today you never see me wear any NFL gear.
But wouldn't you like to have a Niners jersey somewhere? In
I got my jerseys. Yeah.
Do you wear ESPN stuff at all?
No,
still?
but I didn't when I worked there.
See?
I mean,
I don't wear any 92.
I would go places sometimes with my coworkers and they would have ESPN gear on. And I'm like, really?
That is lame.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do?
I used to have a 92.3 The Fan fleece. I had a baseball cap. Tossed them.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna wear.
I got, and you know what's sad is
And I didn't get fired.
when you get cut, you know you get they give you this big dumb black trash bag. They pack everything in there, and you got to pack it, and then they ship it to your house.
Yeah.
And when the box would come, I just take it and give it away. Like,
no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
I got a little baseball hot stove news for
the
you
Juan
guys.
Soto thing.
Yes, the Yankees, a team that never gets any breaks, has never had a superstar in its entire history.
Right, this will be the first one.
Is on the brink of finalizing a deal with the Padres to acquire Juan Soto.
Ooh.
They traded for Alex Verdugo yesterday. He is not going to be involved in the trade, according to John Morrissey. The return for Soto,
Morosi.
excuse me. Michael King, Thorpe, no idea who that is. I'm guessing a prospect.
Yeah.
And at least 2 other additional players, but it looks like the
Juan Soto's
poverty-driven
great.
Yankees are going to finally get
He was overrated, though. I think.
I don't think he's overrated personally. He's great, but he's only got 1 year left on his deal.
Well, yeah, it's a rental, but
and they're going to give up a lot to get him, I think.
When he went to San Diego, do you remember there was a lot of hype around all that?
Yeah, whatever. The mix didn't work there for whatever reason.
No, I know,
but
and that's really hard to explain.
He's a great player. You never know with a guy going to New York if a guy can play in New York. There's a lot of pressure playing in New York. There's no pressure playing in San Diego.
Zero.
And I would think he'll do well there, hitting either before or after Aaron Judge.
He'll have great protection.
But we'll see what the Yankees give up. Michael King's a really nice young pitcher who the average fan probably doesn't know, but he's a good pitcher.
The Yankees system, which once was decimated, has recovered. They have some prospects in their system to make a move like this.
Right.
But it's interesting that.
But King is a big piece to give up. I mean, they have like 5 years of control of King, and he's a good pitcher.
Yeah, which surprises me that this isn't the Yankees' typical path. They sign free agents.
Right.
That's what they do.
Right.
They don't.
I'll be interested to see what they give up. Verdugo also, I think, only has 1 year left on his deal. He's okay. He's a good player.
I want to see
Good
that.
move by the
I
Yankees.
want to see that pitcher. Who's that pitcher that I interviewed on the Big Ten? He went to Indiana.
Oh, Elfrost. Scott Elfrost.
Scott
Yeah,
Efros.
I want to see.
He's a relief pitcher, so he came up with the Cubs originally, and in 2020, what year is this? 2023. In 2022, he came up with the Cubs. He made the big league club, and he pitched extremely well for the Cubs. He was great.
Yeah.
And they traded him to the Yankees at the deadline,
And
he got hurt, and he hasn't pitched since.
Yeah, and I want to see.
But he's got good stuff. So
He's from. I didn't know he was from Cleveland.
You like him, huh? He's your
Good
new
dude.
guy.
By the way,
Good
Zach
dude.
Wilson's starting for the Jets again.
I thought they said he wasn't playing.
He's playing.
What
All right,
a
Mike.
nightmare season they've had.
All right, we're going to start. We're doing Ask the Show. We haven't done this
Yeah.
in forever. We're doing it for overtime. We're going to get one question in here first, maybe two if we have time, but we got a bunch we're going to run through in overtime. For members, if you're a member, you get the full dose of Ask the Show. This
Nice.
first one, Tyvis, is applicable for all Buckeye fans. This is from Creative Juice. He says, Tyvis, hoping you have some Buckeye insider information. Got a lead on who the QB will be next season. If you had to bet, who will it be? Is he already on the roster or somebody will get from the portal?
Listen, this is what I'll say. I will say that they have some guys on the roster already, and they got some guys. They got a guy that's coming in. I don't know who's going to start. I know they're really big on Lincoln Keenholz. Aaron Nolan's coming in, who's supposed to be a really big-time freshman. But if I was a betting man, I would bet on probably Lincoln Keenholz, unless they get Cam Ward out of the portal. So there you go.
It's a great answer
You
from Tyvis.
throw that in as a toss-in, like, unless they get Cam Ward out of the portal.
Unless.
You think it's a long shot?
You think they're more likely to start a guy on the team than the portal, huh?
It's a possibility.
All right.
Hey, you weren't
So a
here
guy who
for-
couldn't beat out this guy.
No. He was a freshman this past year.
Yeah.
Lincoln was a freshman this year.
Let me ask you this.
okay.
How much, I don't know if you know this, but what is Marvin Harrison making in NIL money?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know that?
I know over.
If you had to
It's
guess.
over. $1
well,
million.
no, it's over $1 million, yeah. But
Is it
I
$2
would-
million?
yeah, probably like around there.
I had someone tell
But
me
he's going to make more than that in the NFL.
well, yeah, per year, and also it's going to be multiple years. Is he coming back?
I have not heard that.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
I've just heard rumblings that don't push
Right.
him into the NFL so quickly because he's a different
Maybe
cat.
it doesn't matter because he
And
comes
to
from
him-
money. Who knows?
Well, yeah, right. And money isn't a pressing need. He's already making money.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what decision
I
he
think
makes.
it just depends on what's important to him. I mean,
You sent us a video yesterday of a Michigan player,
Oh yeah, that's hilarious.
and you didn't really weigh in on your thoughts on it. So if you haven't seen it, there's a Michigan player that put a video on Twitter or Instagram or one, and he's absolutely stomping on the grave of the
Oh, my
Buckeyes
God.
and on Marvin Harrison.
Calling them bees.
And I got to tell you, I was glad in that moment that was a Michigan player and not a Buckeye.
Listen, I don't.
Not that the Buckeyes haven't done that in the past.
I don't. First of all, they don't recruit those type of guys at Ohio State anymore.
I'm glad they don't.
So you'll rarely see that. And two, I look at it from a different angle. Like it's sad that that's where we at. Because even when I played, we lost 4 games in my career, and nobody ever did that to us. So it's interesting that they feel like they.
You mean you never did it to anybody else? You saying?
No,
like,
nobody
when
ever did
over
that to
our
them.
4 losses, the teams that we lost to, they never got on the
Well,
internet.
Ty, in fairness, the last 2 years, they've lost 3 games. One was to the number 1 ranked team in Michigan. The other was to the number 1 ranked team,
Oh, you talking
Georgia.
But did Ohio State ever? Did any Ohio State players ever do that to Michigan when you were beating them?
No. Not that I ever saw.
We wouldn't do that? We were used to winning.
And that's what I said. To me, it was such an ugly look.
We knew,
and not because I dislike Michigan so much. If you win and you have to do that.
That seems lame.
It was awful. And I know that younger kids got to post everything to Instagram. Well, it was a terrible look for the university and for the players.
My only thing is, did you do that? Did you say these things on the field?
And before the game.
Like, were you?
It's easy to stomp on someone's grave when they're dead.
You just spent 60 minutes playing the whole game against me. Did you say these things to me? Now, if you said this to me on the field, like, obviously it's
We're out of time, guys.
Just a terrible look.
More Ask the Show questions coming up on overtime.
And I expect better from Michigan.
I really
do.
Do you really?
You know what? My opinion of that university in the last 2 years has gone from very high, even when I didn't like them, to very low.
It shouldn't affect the university. It's just the football team.
The university is co-signing a cheating